The noise, so if I can ask you to keep quiet while we've got the speakers speaking, so that we can clearly hear them. The meeting is being live streamed, if that helps anybody, if they want you to leave and watch it online in a room across the road somewhere. But you're quite welcome to stay. We'll take items in the order they're coming, so we'll take item number 1 first. I know many of you are here for that item. We'll just wait for Councillor Hill to sit down. And during the debate, can I ask you also to remain quiet, please? If you're registered to speak, that's fine. You can speak when I ask you to, but you must remain silent afterwards, so we can have a clear debate. Okay? Right. First of all, then, apologies for absence. I know we've had apologies from Councillor Russell.
No further apologies, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Cribbin.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Just to say that I'm local ward member for item number 1 on the agenda tonight. One of 3 ward members for Malton Ward, but I've not taken part in any of the discussions or deliberations in relation to this application and come with a complete open mind tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. After consultation with Head of Legal, Catherine Hall, I've played many times against Overstone Park Golf Club in a variety of different team matches, but Catherine just wanted me to let that be known. I've never been a member at Overstone, but I've played against them.
Okay, thank you much. Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, for the second application in Arsingworth, I thought it would be better if I lose my right to vote, because I do not want I'm here to represent West Northamptonshire County Council, and I thought people might think that I represented more Arsingworth, so it was wiser for me to leave the room. So I will not take part in the voting, and I will speak as a normal ward councillor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of interest? No? Okay, can I sign the minutes of the meetings of the 15th of May and the 10th of July, please? Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There you see, there's a little doggy already. Thank you. Okay, Chair's announcements. The only thing I'd like to say is if there is a fire or the fire alarm bell goes off, we need to leave the way we came in, so straight through those doors and then down the stairs. We congregate opposite by the pub on the corner, VB's. Okay. If you are registered to speak, I'll ask you to come and take a seat at the table in front of the room there. Somewhere on the floor there should be some lights. Ah, they're here, behind Catherine. So there's some lights. Green is you're okay to speak. Amber is you've got 30 seconds left. And red means your time is up, so I'll ask you to stop speaking. Okay? To be fair on everybody, I only can allow 3 minutes per speaker. Okay? Right then. Application of determination. Eamon, I'll pass over to you for item 5A, which is the Overstone Park Golf Club.
Thanks, Chairman. Does everyone hear me? I can't hear you. Right, the application is an application for the construction of 76 new units of holiday accommodation, as you can see on the title, including 31 new build from 46 twin unit lodges, parking, landscaping and refurbishment at the Overstone Park Golf Club. In terms of setting, the site lies within the Green Wedge area to the northeast of Northampton, although in the former Daventry area. So this is an extract from the Part 2 local plan, which clearly shows the site on the edge of the Northampton built-up area, but lying within the Green Wedge area. The application site comprises a complex of buildings, a leisure facility arranged around a golf course facility. Has a history going back to the 1990s, and basically the permissions allowed for the creation of lodges within a landscape setting, providing holiday or second home accommodation. None of these dwellings, as far as I understand, are occupied as permanent dwellings. The access to the site is from the south in this area, and there is a shared private drive that runs up through to the eastern side of the site that accesses to the buildings in and around Overstone Hall, which is a listed building in a derelict state. Stable buildings and other associated buildings are used for various purposes, including a school, as well as local residential properties. So that access runs down there. It's quite a narrow access. We'll come to some photographs. In terms of the proposal itself, as listed, I'll just move on to the next slide. Oops. Oh. I've lost the PowerPoint here. I'll exit full screen. Apologies for that, Chairman. What's happening there? Right, so in terms of the proposal itself, we have 14 twin units in the area of the tennis courts and bowling green in this area. Then 5 infill units, 2-storey units, which will be designed and built to replicate the appearance of the existing units. 17 further units, 2-storey, will be built along to the north side of the existing access road, with parking to serve, again designed in a manner to match the existing. And 4 units to the south of that area to provide, again, holiday lodges. To the east, there would be 32 units, again twin units, arranged around the existing practice driving range area. As a result of these, there will be various reiterations, redesign of the existing golf course, but the golf course remains available. Towards the lakeside, there are 4 lakeside units, again designed in a manner to be in keeping with the existing units. In terms of the proposal itself, as I've explained, the site is near Overstone Hall, a private access road, and it's on the edge of Northampton. In terms of the policy context, the report deals with the principle of the development, and we identify the principle to be acceptable, even though it's within the Green Wedge area, principally on the basis that it represents an expansion of an existing, long-established leisure facility. In terms of the impact on the landscape area, that again, the report also goes into it and assesses it, and judges the proposal to be acceptable in terms of its impact on the immediate and broad landscape area. Similarly, with biodiversity, the applicants have been in contact with ourselves, and conditions would secure biodiversity enhancement in accordance with existing policy. Heritage is also considered within the report, and our conclusions are that despite some initial concerns by the Conservation Officer, the development would not adversely impact on the setting of Overstone Hall or its surroundings. Similarly, the design issues that we've addressed, if we look at the proposed units, the twin units seem to be the main bone of contention. Those that are designed to look like and assimilate with the existing lakeside units, which are shown here, and with the infill units there, are judged to be acceptable. But on balance, we judge the proposal to be acceptable overall. In terms of flood risk, again, the report goes into the levels of detail, and after long negotiations with the local flood authority, we have concluded the proposal is acceptable, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Similarly, with regard to highway safety, the local highway authority have been consulted and have raised no objections to the application. And again, you'll read from the report that many concerns are raised about the impact on the highway. These tend to centre around the use of the private access road, as opposed to the impact on the local highway network. But that said, local residents are concerned about the volumes of traffic going into and out of the site. Again, the report concludes that on planning balance, we judge the proposal to be acceptable in accordance with policy altogether. And although some minor adverse impact will be had with respect to the setting of heritage assets, the proposal is judged, as I say, to be acceptable on planning grounds, and accordingly we recommend the application be approved. Again, I can run through the photographs. These are the photographs of the site itself in terms of the existing access arrangements, which aren't proposed to be altered as a direct result of the application. They remain unaffected. These photographs indicate the existing lakeside lodges, and as you can see, they are of a relatively unique design, but they are private holiday lodges sitting in open landscape settings. The proposed new units 4 lakeside units would go in this area. This is the tennis court area where the 14 new units would be developed. And again, the nearest existing units affected would be these particular units, again, which the report identifies. We judge there to be acceptable distances between those properties and the new holiday lets, not to have an adverse impact in terms of amenity or setting. And likewise, to the other side, there's a single unit. Again, this is just general photographs around the site itself in terms of the access and local highway. This is the boundary wall that surrounds the site. There are no proposals to alter or amend or make any changes to the boundary wall. That said, it does provide a good sense of enclosure. It does contribute positively to the wider landscape, and there is a condition in the landscape section of the conditions whereby we are looking to secure minor improvements or targeted improvements to the wall itself. Again, these set of photographs show the existing entrance into the site and the start of the existing private way, with the crossing across that between the driving range area and the complex itself. This access is under separate ownership, and the applicants do have a right of way to cross it, but again, that is a private matter between the adjoining landowners in terms of exercising those rights. I'll briefly run through, as I say, the other photographs, which generally the landscaping setting is that of a man-made in terms of a golf course. It's an artificial landscape setting which sits within the green wedge. In broad terms, we judge the proposal will not adversely impact upon that landscape. It will not result in a visual coalescence between the settlements as envisaged by the policy on the green wedge. It will provide a means of other people to come and enjoy the facility and support the local economy. As I say, on balance, as the report sets out, we judge the proposal to be acceptable and accordingly recommended it for approval, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We have four speakers on this item. So if I can ask Mr. Tickle to come first, and again just say who you are and who you represent, and after you've given your speech, just remain in your seat and we'll just ask the committee if they've got any questions for you. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, I'll press the button there.
Oh, hold on 1 minute.
Just trying to get rid of this.
It's just going to get rid of the presentation for you. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
If you'd like to start speaking when you're ready, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair and members of the committee for this opportunity to speak. I represent the Overstone Park Lodge Owners Association tonight, and we vehemently object to this particular planning application. It's an overdevelopment of 76 additional properties, which is a 62% increase on the current availability, with 46 being twin units of caravan type. Our concerns are not addressed with reference to the committee report and application documents, and include the following. Paragraph 1.4 says the existing lodge's vernacular ensures a uniform character and appearance and is pleasant. Throughout the report, it acknowledges that the twin units do not reflect this established character and appearance. Planning officers justify their support by reference to the applicant's design code and a planning condition to control materials and colouring. This ignores the adverse impact the twin units will have on the character and appearance of the area, particularly as they will be an open countryside. The twin units will be narrow, oblong, single-storey and comprise very shallow pitched roofs in conflict with the design and appearance of the existing lodges. They will not be visually attractive, sympathetic to local character, nor will they establish or maintain a strong sense of place. Planning officers have entirely dismissed the advice in the NPPF and the requirements of the Council's own policies relating to design. James Roger for the Council wrote to our group on the 26th of June 2023, stating the applicant had been advised that without significant improvement to the design, the application will be refused. All that happened is a subsequent design code that said the twin units will be coloured grey to match existing lodges. This is not a significant improvement to the design. Paragraph 7.7 references the applicant's claim that this proposal is necessary for business viability. No previous reference to this is made in the planning officer's report. However, it is included under the section titled Planning Balance and Conclusion. This means planning officers apply positive weight to it, which is troubling. James Roger told us in his communication referenced above that the viability report is not important, so it would not be independently assessed. This implies that this assurance was not true, as planning officers have attached positive weight to it and simply accepted what the applicant says without appropriate checks and balances. The report is also subject to 25 different sets of conditions in various categories, some with many, many subsections, inserted to satisfy the legitimate concerns of many of the consultees. Evidently, the committee report contains serious flaws, inconsistencies, and ignores advice in the NPPF and the requirements of the Council's planning policies. The current case officer, and there have been 3 previous, states that there have been 141 objections to the application. There's only 1 representation in support. Thanks for listening. I respectfully request that you resolve to refuse permission for this planning application tonight.
We'll just see if any of the committee's got any questions for you. Any questions? Councillor Cribb.
Thank you. One, you mentioned about your correspondence with James Roger. I was just wondering whether you could just perhaps enlarge a little bit on that at all. I mean, I know what you're saying is that you were advised, off the record, as it were, that significant changes were needed, and just explain to the committee a little bit more about what changes were made then. I mean, we haven't seen an awful lot of the pictures, actually, of the twin units, so it'd be interesting to see those.
Okay, this is the email that we had from James Roger. It's 4 pages long. I don't believe that it's been put on the planning plan, but the quotes that I read out there are direct quotes from this letter. And James Roger at the time was Development Management Manager. Not quite sure what that means, but nevertheless, that was an official communication that we relied quite heavily on in terms of our understanding of where the planning officers were at that time in considering the application.
Okay, that's 2023.
Sorry? It was the 26th of June 2023.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, is it no?
You need to turn your microphone off.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you, it seems 76 new units seems quite a lot to me on a site that has how many now?
123.
123.
So 62% uplift.
Yeah. And when you dealt with Mr. Rogers, obviously you've had some consultation with the residents are already there, hopefully, to say that, yes, I can say yes, that to say that, you know, these people have water place here, and now you're going to change it. What sort of, was there any sort of bargaining between the fact, could we have so many or not, or just have the ones that are, because I've only been there once and that was to a funeral to the place, so it's a long time ago, but I remember seeing how nice it was, and the pitch roofs of the accommodation were very attractive, and you know, then it was quite spread out in a way that looked like a nice place to live, you know, or spend your holiday time. I'm just a bit concerned about these smaller twin units as much as anything, because they just don't seem to be in keeping at all. I just wondered if there was any, yes, I'm going to ask a question. Was there any wriggle room with Mr. Rogers about changing some of the amount of lodges that were
Councillor Bearsworth, I've got to remind you, we are debating the application in front of us,
yes,
and not really what the content of the letter was.
No, but the consultation he had with Mr. Rogers, did you...
If I can explain just a little bit.
Yeah.
In October of 2022, we had 2 or 3, I think it was 2 meetings with the owner, and asked if he was prepared to compromise. We've made our position clear on many, many occasions that we are not against further development of the site. We're not against further lodges being built on the site. We're against the caravan-style lodges particularly, and we're against the scale of the development in terms of just a sheer number. We tried to negotiate with him in terms of, well, how many would be acceptable, down from 62. We suggested 40, which I still personally, as a personal thing, think is still too many, and he completely dismissed that out of hand, and we never had any more email communication with him. It just dried up. So we tried to negotiate with the owner beforehand to try and reach a compromise agreement.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Councillor Joyce.
Just a quick one. Is that working?
Yeah, okay.
Just a sort of query really. Flooding in the past, has there been much flooding on the site?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to call on Mr. Gray now. Thank you, Mr. Gray. I'd like to introduce yourself, say who you represent, and you have 3 minutes from the moment you start speaking.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I'm a full member of the Royal Town Plan Institute, speaking on behalf of Overstone Park Management Limited. Aitchison Rafferty wrote to your planning officer in May 24. Many of our concerns are absent from his report. The proposal is accessed off a blind bend when approaching from the south. This is dangerous, and the scheme will intensify this substandard arrangement. The access lacks sufficient forward visibility to meet site stop and distance requirements. The Highways Authority's last response to the proposal was back in May 23, some 12 months before Aitchison Rafferty objected to the application. The Highway Authority is clearly not infallible, which is why it's important for you as members to have regard. The framework is clear that development which would result in an unacceptable impact on highway safety, or that is not well designed, should be refused, especially where it fails to reflect local design guidance, which in this instance would be that held by the Highway Authority. I ask members, why should you take substandard vehicle access arrangements as being acceptable? Policy C2 of the core strategy seeks a modal shift away from the private car. This site is contrary to policy, being located beyond acceptable walking distances to facilities and services, and is isolated. The applicant has undertaken a tricks analysis of the anticipated trip rate for the proposal, but my client has seen no traffic survey undertaken exploring cumulative impacts or conflicts with existing uses within the park itself. Traffic congestion associated with a special needs school in peak travel periods is a material consideration. Pupil attendance exceeds 135 students, of which 95 are pupils with special educational needs that you can expect to travel by taxi. Your office's report states that the development is not SIL liable, which risks writing off tens of thousands of pounds unnecessarily. The application form states that the scheme is C3 residential use, and your officer is assessing the proposal against policy R1, which is a housing policy. I see no reason why the sill levy is not applied. Policy R1 clearly relays, once the rural housing requirement has been met, then LIMS Roman numeral 3 III to IV apply. The scheme is contrary to policy R1, despite your officer's suggestion otherwise. The applicant has failed to justify the loss of 2 Category A high-value trees where the vehicular crossover is proposed. Your officer has overlooked the loss of these trees in his report. The officer's report is absent and silent on a number of important aspects. The scheme does not represent good design. It intensifies a substandard access arrangement and is contrary to policy. We respectfully invite you to refuse the application. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Councillor Barrett, you've got a question.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just for clarity, in terms of use of the road after the first presentation, what uses are the roads around getting in terms of daily traffic from existing clients to Overstone? Do you have that?
I'm sorry, you're asking me the use of the roads?
Yeah, so you spoke around safety of the roads, so I was just interested to know what numbers you've got behind that concern.
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of my client who is an objector. It's not us to do the traffic survey information. As I said in my speech, the applicant has done a trick survey, but that's only analysing the anticipated movements. It's not, and as I said in my speech, my client has not seen a traffic survey undertaken at the site. What I'm pinpointing there is that there's a cumulative impact between the special education needs school, where you're going to have 95 taxis per day getting up that private track, and as I said right at the start of my speech, you have to look beyond the red line when you're looking at highway impacts. This site is served off a blind bend. If you approach from the south, coming from the roundabout, that's a blind bend. It's intensifying a substandard access.
Yes, because as lay member, you cite some policy and you say that according to you, this development is against policy R1. Could you explain your reasoning?
Well, the officer himself does refer to policy R1 within his report, but in my view, he's took a very, very scant overview of the actual policy, because if something is refused, it's normally members' favourite policy as a grounds to refuse housing development. Now, if you look at policy R1, it is a very long-winded policy. I've argued a number of times against policy R1, and you have to meet it in full. And as I say, once the rural housing requirement has been met, you then have to meet the Roman numerals, which I think from recollection is it supported by a neighbourhood plan? Has there been support through a supportive consultation process? And I can't remember the other one, I'm sure your officer will, but none of those apply. So it is contrary to policy.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. I'll call on Councillor Warren. Where's he gone? That's him. Thank you. Well, it's only one item. Councillor Warren, if you'd like to say who you represent, and then you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Just as I'd introduce myself as ward member for Malton Ward. Members of the committee, I fully support those objecting the planning application, and I agree with all that is being said tonight. I will focus on additional concerns, however. The Council Heritage Officer says the proposal will cause less than substantial harm to Overstone Hall. The NPPF requires justification via public benefit or by securing the heritage assets optimum viable use. The proposal does not satisfy this requirement. It is purely for the applicant's financial gain and the proposed accommodation is not necessary to achieve the optimum viable use of the site as a golf course, this is contrary to the MPPF and policy BN5 and ENV7. The committee report fails to discuss this requirement in any appropriate detail. It is briefly mentioned in paragraph 7.72, where it is said the public benefit is a contribution to the local economy. There is no information concerning the scale of the contribution. Therefore, I contend that the planning officer's assessment is substandard and the members of the committee are expected to make a judgment and decision without necessary evidence, which is wholly wrong. In respect of the viability and proposed economic benefits, it is pertinent to suggest planning conditions do not guarantee promised upgrades to the clubhouse. I'm advised currently that the applicant receives an annual ground rent of £341,701 from the existing 123 lodges, but not a penny is spent on improving the site. This is part of the justification for the proposals, and if it is, then it should be suitably controlled. Paragraph 7.13 reports that 24 new jobs will be created, with 29.5 FTE jobs currently. However, David Barraclough, the previous managing director of Overstone Golf Club, disputes these figures, advising that when he was running the business, which included a 28-bedroom hotel and a fully functioning restaurant, etc., the business could not sustain that level of staffing. Therefore, the applicant's figures are questionable. Moreover, it is understood that upon gaining ownership of the application, made many redundancies across the elements of the business. I suggest that proof of existing and proposed staffing should be obtained before the council attaches significant weight to the applicant's statement, which is something planning officers say justifies this planning application. There are a number of serious concerns within this report and application tonight, and I respectfully request that you resolve to refuse this planning application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Warren? No? Okay, you can go. Okay. Mr. Ramis? Sorry. Again, like to say who you represent, and you've got 3 minutes. And if it helps, talk to me and ignore everybody else. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Tony Ramirez. I'm Associate Director of Planning at RPS, and I represent the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dear Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to address the Planning Committee for this application for the construction of new holiday lodges and improvements to the existing leisure facilities at Overstone Golf Club and Resort. The applicant acquired the site in 2019 and has provided significant financial support to deal with the impacts of Brexit, COVID-19 and the cost of living crisis. The business has been in decline for the past 20 years to the point where today it is in need of significant investment. The resort's vision is to relaunch under new branding.
Excuse me. Just hold on for a moment. Excuse me, but nobody made noise when the other speaker spoke, so can I ask for respect, please? Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to leave the meeting. Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. The resort's vision is to relaunch under new branding and to create a high-quality tourist attraction by improving the current leisure offering and creating a thriving, sustainable business. The vision relies upon this proposal to generate the capital for investment into the business, and without this, the business will fail. A justification and benefits report was submitted with the application to provide information on this point. The scheme has been evolving since 2019 following pre-application discussion and a public consultation with residents and the parish council. This led to a reduction of units from 105 to 76 to remove the potential visual and heritage impact upon Overstone Hall and to address neighbours' concerns about visual and traffic impacts. The proposed single-storey lodges, although classed as caravans under planning legislation, will be in fact high-quality luxury lodges in line with the applicant's vision. This will add to the mix of units on the site and respond to market needs. Their appearance will be carefully controlled by planning conditions attached to the permission, which includes a design code to set out the quality of the development intended. The rest of the units will match existing, and to clarify, all these units will be for holiday accommodation, as are the existing units. Additional planting, landscaping, car parking and drainage have been incorporated into the proposal to ensure development is comprehensive and protects visual and neighbouring amenity, whilst achieving biodiversity and again above current requirements. Car parking is provided to each of the proposed lodges, and improvements to the internal layout along with marking of parking bays will provide increased visitor and staff car parking. Matters regarding the private access road are not a material plans consideration, and in any case it has been confirmed that the applicant has access right to allow this to be carried out and used as proposed. Currently, the site generates 30 full-time jobs, and the proposal will create 24 additional full-time jobs. Without the investment resulting from the proposal, the business and the site will continue its decline, leading to the potential closure of this value result and loss of jobs. There are no objections from your technical consultees, and when planning balancing is considered, the significant benefits resulting from employment, improvement to leisure facilities, and BNG outweigh the minimal harm to visual amenity. Overall, the scheme represents sustainable development in line with national and local planning policy, and as supported by the assessment of your planning officer, we will kindly request this application to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Remain seated there, see if there's any questions for you. Councillor Irving-Swift.
Thank you for speaking. Now, you say that if this investment is not made, all those new houses are not made, the site will be at risk. Can you explain to me which risk? Maybe it will not be us, but what is the risk? Because here we have some people who represent the owner of the chalet or the houses on the site. So what is truly the risk?
Councillor Irving-Swift, can I ask you to put your microphone on?
Sorry. Sorry. So for you, it is a significant risk. I do not. Can you explain to me what is the risk? Because I cannot see it. It might not be as beautiful as you wish, but the site will not stop to exist, or is that a possibility? Can you explain?
Yes, of course, thank you. It is a risk of decline and a risk of not being able to actually fulfill its financial commitments to keep the employment going and to the maintenance. Just on the current state of the facilities, the resort has been losing membership for the past 10 years, and that's in line with national trends. It's inevitable. So,
Please.
Thank you. And on the justifications and benefits report that was submitted with the application, there is further information on those points.
Chair, is that a planning consideration?
It's not really, no, I didn't think it was.
Should we bring that to everyone's attention? Yeah. Yeah, I've got a question as well. Yeah. Thank you for that. So the in the local plan, the settlements and countryside local plan for Daventry, ENV3 says that proposals within the green wages will be required to demonstrate that they would maintain the physical and visual separation between settlements. Nothing I've heard tonight provides that demonstration. Have I missed something, or can you provide that demonstration? Because without it, we can't approve it. Otherwise, it would be against the rules. Yeah. Would that be right?
Yes, so the site will continue, it is existing, as you can see on the layout plan there. The design has incorporated including all the units within the build-up area and close to the build-up area of the site, just to avoid that spreading. It's not a site that is agricultural land at the edge of a settlement. It's actually a golf resort. That's the land use of it. It won't spread to be in contrary to policy, and as on the assessment of your planning officer as well, when he regards the green wedge policy, he explains this as well. So it's not spreading, it's not undermining the function of the green wedge, it's building up and adding up to the existing site, so it's not going beyond that.
Yeah, but I don't see how it maintains the physical and visual separation. I still don't. Does anyone else?
No? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Bearsworth and then Councillor Hill.
Thank you. You say it's in decline. You can hear by the reaction of the people that are here tonight that they don't agree with you. But also, would you say that 76 new units is rather in excess? It's 62%. And when we hear about the ground rent these people are paying, don't you think really that a smaller number of units would be more acceptable and they would still be earning extra money? I just find it very difficult that when you're actually putting this amount of building into it, is there any movement for compromise?
There has been a compromise. As I mentioned in my speech, the proposal initially started at 105 units and has been reduced to 76 to take into account all those matters. The applicant has provided information about this, again, on the justifications and economic benefits report, and it's all I can offer at this stage, really. There has been negotiation, there has been discussion. It's a proposal that has been in discussion since 2019 and that has gone through several iterations to meet all the concerns and planning policies.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. One of the main concerns, I believe, has been raised about these twin units, which I think residents seem very much against. Why have you taken that decision to use those rather than the kind of the existing style of the other ones, which I've been at Overstone Park and I agree, I think they're very nice, but clearly that's one of the issues here, so I just wondered what your rationale was behind that. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. There are two strands to that thought. So the first one is these are relatively quick and easy to bring to the site units, which will help with the financial side of things to bring this proposal forward and the investment needed for the resort. But also it contributes to a mix of units within the site that is not a current offering on the site. So for two-story units, when you think about the fact that access and mobility could be an issue, this offers a different mix into the site that is not currently offered.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Barrett.
Yeah, just a quick question really, just going on from Councillor Frost's point as well, in regard, and Councillor Hill's there, just referring to the report 7.58. On balance, the proposal has demonstrated a reasonable approach to safeguarding the character and appearance of the original complex and its sense of place by ensuring those units in and around the complex are sympathetic in design, appearance and to the original development. This policy is in keeping with EMV 10. From what I've seen there, they're different. So, I'm not. It's literally a black and white question. So, in order for us to meet policy EMV 10, that reasonable approach has to be logical, and we see it here. They have to be in the character and appearance of the original complex. Councillor Frost, is that what you were getting at as well? Yeah. Okay. So, from what I've seen, they're not.
Is there a question?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Are these plans incorrect, or is my perception wrong, or because I'll open it to the other councillors in the room here because they may have similar concerns.
Councillor Barrett, can I ask you to up the question, please?
Sorry, I thought I had. Sorry. So, in your opinion, do these, what you're proposing, safeguard the character and appearance of the original complex as it stands? And how do you get to that conclusion from those plans?
Yes, in our assessment, it does keep with the character and appearance of the site. You do need to bear in mind. You do need to bear in mind that keeping with the character and appearance doesn't mean to copy what is existing. Otherwise, you never had any new designs, any new architecture. You never evolved, you never changed, you never had anything. It doesn't mean that difference is wrong. So in this case, what has been done is an exercise about what type of different styles of buildings are on the site and how this will sit within it. And the design code actually talks about it and addresses these concerns in terms of how they will integrate with the site.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cribbin.
Thank you. It's following on from Councillor Barrett's comments, really. He sort of stole part of what my question was going to be about how do you justify the ENV 10 policy to say this is actually a good design. Listening to everyone tonight, I find it difficult to actually realise that this is a good design. I was going to ask you the question about why do you think this is a good design? It looks like it's only changed slightly from the original application, and just colour them grey, as opposed to they're grey caravans rather than.
Okay, I think we've got a question there.
The question is how do you justify this as a good design?
As I mentioned, there has been a long analysis and exercise about what the type of buildings are on this site, what is around, what are the market needs, and this is what the result is. There has been an analysis about building lines, layout, plot orientation. All of those are elements of design and good design, and this has been met on those. It includes landscaping to screen the site. It includes access. It includes pedestrian facilities. It includes decking. So all the elements of design and good design have been incorporated into the proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Irving-Swift, do you have a question?
Yes. When you did your speech, you say that those units, which seems to be our issue at the moment, have been chosen because they are quick and cheaper, and they will attract another type of visitors. Is that exactly what you say, or did I misunderstood what you said?
No, you didn't misunderstand what I said. What I mean is it includes a mix. It creates a mix of units within the site that currently doesn't exist. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. Makes it more interesting, doesn't it? Councillor Barrett, please keep your question brief.
Okay, could we just get the picture back up from the 14 for the doubles, please? Twins, sorry. I fully accept what you're saying in terms of architecture evolves. I fully understand that. But what I'm trying to get at is those existing plots and what they look like in comparable to what you're seeing up there. There is a tangible difference, and then you've justified the difference in they're quick, they're easy, they're cheaper, they're going to help the business more. So what I'm drawn to, and I've heard from the variety of speakers earlier about the parking, etc., and the busyness. That those aren't compelling for me, and from what I can see, that there isn't things. Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So, with regards to that, are those twins? I can't read the page. Are those twins the final design? That's what you're looking at, or is there movement in those design features to meet, in my opinion, EMV10?
Yes, those images on the design code, which I'm not sure whether they were shown on the screen, they are not the final design of the caravans, because caravan designs
I'm going to start asking you to leave. You can make a noise. Nobody interrupted the other speakers. Please allow her to speak. Thank you.
I mentioned, because of the response, I mentioned caravans. I acknowledge these are caravans in planning terms, and that's why I call them caravans, just to make it clear. So, in terms of the design code is there to control the massing, the height, the color, the materials, the final materials of them. But because of their nature, the location of the doors, the design of the windows, they are not finalized, because they will be depending on the suppliers, the specifications available. That's the whole idea of this. But when I mentioned that these units are cheaper to build, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be good quality. They are luxury lodges. If you go and look at other luxury lodges sites, they have high quality.
Excuse me, we've got another meeting going on here, so can we please have a bit of respect for the speakers? Thank you. Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you. So they have the luxury quality end to them. So the design code controls, as I said, massing, height, appearance, materials of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, no further questions, so thank you very much. Okay, Eamon, is there anything you want to come back on there, or anything you've heard in the questions?
Chair, could I ask whether we've got anybody from Highways here?
we haven't. But thank you very much for the question.
Again, just to answer the point, I have spoken to the highway officer. The highway officer knows the site, has been to the site, visited the site, and is satisfied with the comments that they've previously made in respect to the development. Their concerns were ensuring that the development was not used as permanent residential. So the reference to R1 is with respect to if you were considering this as a housing development. It's clear from what you've heard tonight, the application is not for a housing development, it's to expand the existing leisure facility. Ultimately, this is boiling down to people don't like the mobile home element of this proposal, which is centred or focused on two clusters. My view of that is that those particular clusters will read clearly, they're nowhere near like the buildings that are there. They'll clearly read as something different, but they deliver something that helps the applicant improve the facility. Now, people will have a view on that. Members are entitled to take a view on that in terms of design, etc. We have judged the application simply based on its impact on heritage, impact on highways, impact on biodiversity, impact on flood risk, etc. We have not gone into the viability issue because we don't consider, we have judged the proposals to be acceptable on balance. But we accept you as members are entitled to come to a different view in respect of the design of those particular units, the siting of those particular units. And if you do that, then clearly you need to produce an argument as to why those units harm the character of the local landscape, etc. There are no highway objections from the Highway Authority, so I would not look at highway reasons for refusal, because the Highway Authority, as of today, clearly indicated they're more than satisfied with the proposal, subject to those limitations. Nothing else to say other than I'm trying to get back onto the internet.
Right. I'll just go around the room if there's any other questions. Any other questions to Eamon? Councillor Frost.
Yeah, thank you. Will it work?
Take your speaker off.
Thank you, I'll try again. Happy days. Back to these green wedges. Eamon, correct me if I'm wrong, but the in amongst the many objectives of the local plan was to identify green wedges, and as far as I can tell, it makes it crystal clear. It's unequivocal. It says do not build on them, like really don't build on them, except in the most exceptional circumstances, and those circumstances are, to all intents and purposes, I'm frantically trying to bring it up here, where don't build on the green wedges, other than to improve access to the green wedges or to enhance people's enjoyment of the green wedges. So it's, I guess I'm a bit puzzled because it's on the green wedge. It doesn't meet those criteria. So apart from anything else about the colour of the caravans and all the rest of it, it's on the green wedge, and we can't build on green wedges. It's that simple, isn't it?
Again, through you, Chairman, the green wedge is not a green belt. We don't have green belts in this area. The policy does not stop development going on the green wedge. It says it allows for development provided you protect, and I'll quote, to protect the identity, character and setting of settlements within the areas of Fringe, Daventry and Northampton proposals within green wedges. So fundamentally, you're wrong. It doesn't prevent development happening within the green wedge. Proposals within green wedges will be required to demonstrate that they will maintain the physical and visual separation between settlements. Now, you can come to a view that you disagree with the proposal, contrary to your officer's conclusions. You're perfectly entitled to do that, but then you'll have to demonstrate what that harm is, how the role and purpose of the green wedge is being adversely affected, given that this is an existing, long-established use of the land. So it's we're not introducing a new use, we're introducing new development. So you're perfectly entitled to come to an alternative view on that, but to say that EMV3 says no development is incorrect.
Oh, okay, sorry to clarify. It doesn't say no development, but Eamon, isn't it the other way around? Don't you have to demonstrate to us how this is going to increase public access to and enjoyment of the green wedges. And if you can't do that, we can't support it.
Again, through you, Chairman, by introducing the ability for more people to come onto the site, you are increasing that accessibility. The issue here is the physical development and how that impacts on the character. And as I say, you as members are entitled to come to a different view on the mobile units of the two clusters that seem to be the focus of people's attention.
So in summary, by building on the green wedges, we're helping the green wedges. Is that that's the... Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, I think our officer, Eamon, has the bug of the matter is those mobile homes and the number of those. Now, because by nature they are mobile, do they not have, or do, because when that Overstone Park was built years ago, did they not have a covenant restricting or that didn't allow that sort of structure? Because, sorry, it seems to me that the idea of those mobile homes are not do not sit well with what is actually in sit. So I thought when we signed, because you must have signed a contract with the first developer who did the things, you should have had some
covenants tend to be a legal matter, not a planning matter. Therefore, it doesn't have any weight on our decision tonight.
I do agree that normally a covenant is a thing, but because it was an exception when it was built all those years ago, I think we will have had somewhere in the first planning application something to guide you to what you could do or not.
Yes, please do. Please. If you're going to applaud after everybody speaks, we're going to be here till 12 o'clock. Okay, so please.
And much as I'd like a round of applause every now and again in my work, you know, I'd also like to go home before midnight. Through yourself, Chair, just to assist Councillor Irving Swift's query. The recommendation itself does actually include completion of a deed of variation to an existing legal Section 106 agreement entered into in a previous planning application of DA 1993-0809 in respect of overall numbers of units on site. So there is a provision in place that would be then being looked at to be varied to bring up to date with the current proposals.
Can I have 2 seconds? Yes. So if I understand correctly, you have put in place a variation of the deeds.
It's not the title deeds. Title deeds are land ownership issues, and the restrictive covenants then fall under land ownership issues, so restriction of uses. So residential, you might get a previous one for a old barn or something, not to use it as a piggery. That would be a restrictive covenant in a title documentation. This is a planning obligation, legal 106 agreement, restricting or securing specific obligations relating to the planning proposals.
Sorry, because I know it's a bit pedantic, but it's quite important if we decide to go against officer advice. So it's we have to a deed of variation on Section 106. So could we or somebody can propose that if we refuse that deed of variation, is that a planning consideration? Thank you.
106s are basically planning obligations. They're there to mitigate the impact of the development. They're very strict tests that have to be applied to them. In this particular case, back in the 90s, when this original proposal was allowed in the subsequent applications, a 106 was entered into to limit the number of units on the site. What's not clear to me is what the planning purpose of that obligation was, other than to limit the numbers of site. There's no clues on the reports that I can see in terms of why it was sought, other than to just say, well, we're going to limit the numbers. We surmise that the reasons behind that, when the council required the applicant to enter into, it was perhaps to provide and allow the authority to look at visual impact, look at the increase in numbers upon highway network, etc., etc. Whether or not that should have been within the 106 is another matter. But the fact remains is that the area of land is the subject of a 106. The deed of variation would only be required if members are minded to approve the application. If members are minded to refuse it, no, the deed of variation is not, that goes away. If the applicant chooses to lodge an appeal, then an inspector will look at the whole thing afresh, and the inspector will look at the planning obligation, and the inspector will decide whether or not what's being sought by the obligation of the deed of variation can be dealt with by conditions, if the inspector was minded to allow the appeal. So we will have to see. So ultimately, Paul, to your court members, you've got to make a decision on the application. We've gone around the houses here, but it's clear to me that you're centring on to one aspect of this particular proposal, which is the appropriateness of these twin units and their density upon the landscape. Officers have given their opinion. You're entitled to come to your views, but you'll need to clearly set that out in the context of planning policy. Thank you.
Councillor, before I start, remember it's questions to Elim at the moment, not comments or speeches.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you. Question, please, Councillor.
Question. Would it be possible for this planning committee to say that we do not want the twin units on the site? We only want the extra houses that are in keeping with the property. Can we?
I'm going to start asking people to leave. I'm sorry.
Can we ask?
The answer, Chairman, through you, is yes. If you decide and vote to refuse the application and clearly set out your reasonings.
Yes.
But that's this isn't up for debate tonight to decide on numbers. The application's before you. The officers have set out within their report their assessment of the proposal. Yes, these units are different. But different doesn't make it unacceptable in planning grounds.
Yes, but
you're entitled to come to a different view.
But also, we also have another holiday park in the area with caravans on it now, which is expanding, as we hear. And so do we need caravans on this? Why not keep it as a site that looks uniformed and attractive, rather than put caravans on there that people just probably won't want to go to?
That's your decision, members. That's your decision. You've got a report before you, you've got a recommendation,
right.
and you can decide to go against that recommendation as long as you set out. The fact that other caravan sites or mobile home sites are expanding or whatever is probably a good thing, but it's not relevant to the merits of this proposal.
No,
you must decide on the merits of this proposal and clearly set out your reasoning.
Well, the reasoning I would have is for the...
It's questions at the moment.
Okay, and I'll come back with a proposal.
Councillor Privin, please, your question to Eamon.
Question to Eamon, really. I suppose it's sort of like asking him, policy RA6, subparagraph 8 of the Joint Corps, or the Daventry and Settlements local plan, says that development for agriculture, equestrian, forestry, leisure, etc., will be acceptable provided it's justified in an appropriate scale for its location, has no significant adverse impacts on the character, beauty or tranquility. From what I hear from the committee today is that probably that policy is breached by these twin units as well. Wanting just to ask him whether I'm barking up the wrong tree or whether I've got a valid point here.
That's your decision, member. I mean, the policy's there. It clearly sets out that it allows for development within the open countryside and it allows for tourism development. So if you apply that, then again, you're entitled to come to a view that the scale of the development here is inappropriate in the context of this. Officers have come to a different view. Members are entitled to come to an alternative view, but that's for you to set out and to vote on.
Yeah, I suppose it's a subjective thing.
It's a subjective thing. I mean, again, what I'd say to you is that this is an existing, long-established facility. Times have changed. Times have moved on. Somebody needs to, they're looking to improve sort of the ability of the site to earn, as it were. It's a business in that sense. They've come up with a proposal which is a mix of units to match the existing units on site, and I don't hear any criticism of those from this evening. the focus seems to be on these two clusters. One of those clusters is set well away from the existing complex, and in my view doesn't impact on that. So members will have to take a view on their view on that particular cluster. The other sits just to the north, the northwest of the existing units, and yeah, it's sitting in close proximity to the roundel and those units. You can take a view on that. That's entirely your prerogative.
Okay.
But to answer your question, yeah, you're probably in the right. You're quoting a relevant policy.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett, a question, please. No? Councillor Evans-Swift.
Yes, someone spoke about our officer, Mr. Rogers, to have written an email. Now, it's quite clearly that he wanted, and we are talking again about those units, he wanted another design and apparently just a colour change. So now we have an officer from that council. I haven't seen the email, so I cannot, but it was quoted before that this officer said that it will be a new design, better design, and it doesn't seem, besides the colour, the design has been really improved. So what way can we do, or how can we interpret this difference of opinion? I know 4 planning officers will come to different opinion, but I don't know what to do with that piece of information.
The short answer is that that information isn't before you. What's before you is the report that the officers have set out, but you're entitled to come to an alternative view on that. What officers say in meetings, etc., basically is not what's in a planning report. The planning report is before you. You've heard criticisms of the planning report this evening. You've heard no other comments with respect to the planning report. You're in this game a long time, members, so you're perfectly entitled to take an alternative view, having listened to what you've heard this evening, both for and against the proposal. But it's your choice now to look at the report, not to dwell on hearsay or communications that haven't been the subject of a formal forum. The decision is to make the decision this evening based on the application before you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. We'll move on then to comments. So, comments, Harry, come to you first.
Yeah, just for the colleagues really, I fully accept the officers saying in terms of how time moves on. I understand that, and design moves on. My concern still revolves around EMV10, and I'll just read it again because I want members to hear. On balance, the proposal has demonstrated a reasonable approach to safeguarding the character and appearance of the original complex and its sense of place by ensuring that those units in and around the complex are sympathetic in design and appearance to the original development. From what I've seen again, and the questions, I've still not had a reassurance from that. From what I've heard from the developer, they're using those twin developments for business purposes, which is what they're entitled to do, but they're a shift away from what's existing. I think I'm going on from what Councillor Frost is saying there. It's a shift in vision, in what it looks like, in what they'll feel like. They're completely different things, as recognised by the speaker for the developer, who actually referenced the term caravan. So for me, EMV10, it's not met because we're not demonstrating a reasonable approach to safeguarding the character and appearance of the original network for me. So that's my view to colleagues here, and I'll be interested to hear.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry. Councillor Beard.
Yes, I totally agree with my colleague here about EMV10. It's, to me, it's too big an extension. I would be happy to see the existing properties that are there copied, and so that there was some continuity, and because they were attractive buildings. I don't think the smaller units that they're talking about, the caravans, if you want for a better word, actually adding to it. I think I would prefer to see that. And they're still having some development, but not overloading the site with people.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cribbett.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just go back to the question I asked Eamon McDowell a few minutes ago about policy RA6. and 6 paragraphs, Roman numeral number 8, I would probably want to put that in as a reason for refusal if we're going that way, and maybe perhaps I should press for a refusal on the grounds of probably ENV 10 and RA 6 subparagraph 8.
Yeah, okay, comment at the moment. You can propose that if you wish to later. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns about this application. My ward sits just next to it, Billingham Rectory Farm, so I know it quite well. The blind corner, I know Highways have said that they've looked at it. I know it well, and it I have some concerns about adding extra traffic to that. I also think that the consultation process which has taken place between residents, existing residents, and the owner don't seem to have been particularly proceeded very well, and I don't think we're a very good outcome here. So I'm not of mind to support this currently.
Yeah, just a quick one on the highways. We spoke about this previously. We've had assurances, haven't we, over the last year that when there's applications that might have considerable highways implications, that we could expect attendance from a highways officer. I'm not sure what the opinion of the committee is, but I'm disappointed that there's not an officer here, so that we can put that point about the blind band and see how they justify it. That's a point that's been made previously, and I know, Chair, you'll yeah, thank you. I've got a quick question about RE3. As far as I can tell, put words in your mouth there, but what you're saying is the reason why it's compatible, in your opinion, with RE3 is on this economic grounds, because, as you say in 7.13, it's going to create jobs. My confusion is around, maybe it's just semantics, but B3 of the local plan, RA3, B3, it says economic development that will enhance or maintain the vitality or sustainability of the other village, or would contribute towards and improve the local economy. What's confusing me is that is the assumption that those jobs will come from Overstone, because that, if they're going to come from outside Overstone, then how's that going to help the local economy? Or by local economy, I mean, how local is it? I mean, I guess if they're coming from Daventry, then, but that's not local, is it? So, in other words, I don't see how that economic argument can be used to breach the other villages stipulation, which is point A. It says development at other villages will be located within the confines of the village, or put another way, don't build outside the confines of the village. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Have you finished?
Right.
Right. Thank you, Chairman. The only comment I have really is I totally agree with Councillor Hill and Councillor Beardsworth. My overriding feeling about this is that the people who are here this evening seem to have behaved extremely well towards the owner of the land. And I think he has lost a trick, and he should have talked to them and perhaps gone along with them rather. I do find the number too great. Anything to do with planning, fine. We have our officers who do the planning to the nth degree. I'm more on the basic, and I consider that far too much is put into this application, and that's my only comment really.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we... Oh, Councillor Evans-Smith, sorry.
Well, I think, and Eamon says that, it said that it was a finely balanced application. So when we say it's finely balanced, it could go one way or the other. It's not black and white, and an application is never black and white. So I do think with the proposal that Daniel has put forward, it's another interpretation of the same policy, but in favour of the refusal. So I think because of the finely balanced thing, if the applicant wants to go against officer advice, he will take into account the discussion we have tonight and I hope that the officer will be able to defend our decision if we decide to go against.
If we decide.
If we decide.
Councillor Joyce.
For me, really, I think I've seen the feeling in the room tonight. It's about communication and that level of communication. It seems to me there's been a communication breakdown. I got there in the end. So I think I feel at the moment I probably won't be supporting this. I listened to what Councillor Barrett said earlier, really. It's about the strength of feeling. I consider this as a massive turnout. Most I've ever seen at a planning meeting. So.
So we are where we are. The officer's recommendation is to approve the application. Do I have a proposer for the officer's recommendation? No, would it help if I propose? Do I get a seconder? Yes, you do. Oh, fantastic. So, all those in favour? That fails. All those against? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm afraid we're recording far too early. So that is 8 against. So do I have an alternative proposal? Councillor Crimmins.
Yeah, I say I sort of more or less explained it a minute or two ago. We've got in respect of design, so that's ENV 10. We do not think that the design is a good design, and it's not appropriate in this setting. And secondly, policy RA6, Roman numeral number 8, that we feel that it's not of a. It spoils the beauty and the tranquility of the site and open countryside.
Chair, just listening to the discussion, I think if members are minded to refuse planning permission, I think the safer route is what was recommended there, because you don't want to get involved in a technical issue around highway issues and that sort of thing.
No, we're not.
So
no.
I've got some suggestive wording here, which is, in the opinion of the local planning authority, the proposed development represents a form of new urbanising development in an open and rural setting, which would intensify the overall development footprint of the existing holiday home complex. This intensification, combined with the inappropriate design and form of the new units, in particular the twin units, would harm the character and appearance of the locality. And then I've picked up all the policies which I think are relevant that you referred to. The proposal would therefore be contrary to the provisions of policies R1, RA6, ENV3, ENV8 and ENV10 of the Settlement and Countryside Local Plan Part 2 for Daventry District Part 2 LPP2.
Right, that's probably more than I was going to say, but yeah, we often say keep it short, sweet, because it's easier appeal not to put too many things in. But if, on your opinion, if that's it sums up what we've said, then I'll be happy to go with that and propose that.
We've got that written down as the proposal then. So proposed by Councillor Crimmins, seconded by Sally Beersworth. Sorry, Councillor Beersworth. All those in favour? Okay. Against? Abstain? Okay. So that is refused. Could I ask if you could leave the meeting? Could you do so as quickly as possible? Because we have got a long agenda to get through. Okay, so that's...
Thank you, councillors, for your support.
Could I ask you to leave as soon as possible? Okay, right, we're ready to continue then. We've still got many applications to. Are you ready? There we go. Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay then, so we're moving on then to item B, which is Golden Paddock, Braybrook Road, Market Harborough. So Eamon, over to you again.
I've run out of water. Again, thanks, Chairman. This application, as the slide indicates, is an application that seeks retrospective permission for the construction of a barn, new access to Braybrook Road, and installation of lighting columns at Golden Paddock, Braybrook Road, Market Harborough. Site lies in open countryside, has had the benefit of previous permissions, as you'll see from the report, as a traveller site. You'll also see from the report that there is history in respect of equine activities on the site, with reference to stables being given planning permission and being extended. This application has come about as a result of investigations by enforcement officers. It's probably best for me to go to the photographs because the building's there. The drawings are diagrammatic at best, but they do indicate broadly where the proposal is. It's a building that has been constructed by the applicant, and we're advised by the applicant that's in connection with their existing equine activities on site. Of course, I need not remind members that retrospective applications must be dealt with on their planning merits. The fact that they're retrospective should not play a part in members' deliberations. You've got to look at the application on its merits and come to a decision, a conclusion. The photographs obviously show the existing access onto the site and the existing units that were approved as basically a traveller site. This is the building in question, with the various roof lights on site. The earlier slides have indicated the photographs, the floodlighting. Our view, from an officer point of view, is that the proposal is acceptable in visual terms, in terms of its impact on the wider landscape, and subject to the conditions set out in the addendum and on the report, that the issue of lighting within the site can be controlled. Now, the reasoning for our view in terms of the visual impact is that the building itself, being an equine type building, agricultural type building, being a building used for storage of hay and stuff in connection with the applicant's equine activities, is an appropriate form of structure in the landscape. We judge it to be sited in the least obtrusive part of the site, and although there is an issue of lighting, the reasoning behind that is obviously to allow natural daylight into the building during the day, to avoid having to expend money on energy in terms of artificially lighting the building. As I say, on balance, and in terms of the report, our view as officers, the application should be approved subject to the conditions set out. Chairman, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Eamon. We have 3 speakers on this, so for those of you who weren't in the room earlier, I'll just explain. When you come to speak to us, sit at the table, press the microphone button, the light will come on. It may go off after 20 seconds, so you might have to keep refreshing it. In front of Catherine here, there's some lights. Green means you've got 2.5 minutes, amber 30 seconds are left, and then when it gets to red, I'm afraid your time is up. So the first speaker is Leslie Sanderson, please. I'd like to join the table and just say who you are and who you represent.
Hi, I'm Leslie Sanderson, Chair of Arthingworth Parish Council.
Lovely, you've got 3 minutes.
Arthingworth Parish Council strongly object to the planning applications for the following reason. The building is oversized to the size of the plot. As commercial use is not permitted on this site, the need for such a large building is questionable. The barn is situated on a ridge, and the lights, which are intermittently through the night, show through the glazed roof lights and are visible over a considerable area. These are in direct contravention of Arthingworth's adopted neighbourhood plan, Dark Skies Policy number ENV11. It should be noted that the plan showing the new access on the light position is incorrect, as the barn is situated on the boundary. The part block plan shows the correct size and position. It should be noted the application states that there are no windows in the barn, but 7 glazed roof lights are visible on the proposed barn plan, with presumably 7 on the other side. New access. The Parish Council see no requirement for a second access. If this access is to be kept, the old access should be permanently closed. Lighting columns. The light poles are 4 metres high and there are 5 floodlights in a very small area. The Parish Council feel that this is excessive and there is no requirement for this amount of lighting. The site is on a ridge and the lights, which are on intermittently through the night, are visible over a very wide area. There have been reports of the lights being visible from Desborough, from main roads including the 508 and the A6, the local roads from the village of Arthingworth and surrounding parishes. The light pollution is detrimentally affecting the surrounding area, which is unacceptable and in contravention of the adopted neighbourhood plan. The light pollution is adversely affecting the wildlife in the area, which is not acceptable in a rural area. The lights are too high, too bright and too many for the size of the plot. The Parish Council has received many complaints regarding the light pollution and have requested that the Planning Committee visit the site and surrounding areas so that the light pollution can be addressed properly. The councillors have asked me to advise you that since the pond on the site was filled in, I am led to believe with horse manure there is effluent running down the road from the site. This is judged to be not only unpleasant but could freeze in the winter and be cause of an accident. We would urge the council to object to this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Just remain seated there.
Yeah.
Just see if anyone has any questions. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Parker, you're next, please. Councillor Parker, like to introduce yourself, say who you represent, and then you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm Councillor Parker, I represent the Brixworth ward. I'll confine my statements to policies. The application 2023/5348 MAF. The application is against policy BN9 regarding pollution control, section C, minimising light pollution. There is no lighting scheme provided or the impact on ecology in this report. NNC Planning Department, the site abuts the north and were asked for comments. This level of lighting is inappropriate within the countryside setting and does not meet the criteria in EMV2/RE6. The site sits in an SLA, and as the inspector stated in his appeal decision 17th of April 2019, hedgerows and vegetated areas and flat open fields give this part of the SLA a rural character. I do not understand how a barn measuring 44 by 18 by 8 metres will not have a negative impact. It is clearly overmassing. There is no supporting evidence from the applicant what the barn will be used for, just states storage barn. The officer states the storage of hay and equestrian equipment, but this is not asked for in the application. The inspector stated as above, condition 8, no commercial activities shall take place on the land, including the storage of materials. The barn, which is commercial in its scale and with no supporting documentation, is against RA6 and ENV2. With numerous planning policies against this application coupled with comments from the North Planning Department, I do not see how this application can succeed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Thank you for quoting policies. Use it to our ears. Any questions, Councillor Parker? Councillor Beard.
I can't see by the photographs. Maybe you could tell me how close residential houses are.
I couldn't tell you, no. No, I couldn't tell you that.
What, a mile, half a mile, quarter of a mile?
We've got Braybrook, mile and a half.
Okay, thank you.
Something like, don't quote me on that though, 'cause
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Cecilia, would you come join us? Say who you are, who you represent.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Heath Swift and I live in Arsingworth. And after the presentation you had from the chairman of the parish and from Kevin Parker, I would like to tell you why I think I am asking you to go against officer advice. Because it's a retrospective application, we can see the effect, and the light is quite substantial. Now, what is not seen in the picture is that normally Northamptonshire is quite flat. That barn is on the ridge. Now, if you look at the history of the barn, it started in 2005, and because we are at the border between North Northamptonshire County Council and West Northamptonshire County Council, we always are a bit forgotten. So, as a result, the village of Braybrook, Ardingworth and Arrington have formed a group and inform each other and work together with any officers from the north or from the west to make sure that we have a cohesive proposal on each side of the border, because it affects all our villages. Now, when we all agree that the nature of the barn is agricultural, but when the first planning application to site caravan on that side, the caravan had to be moved at the other side of the site because they had too much visual impact on the rural landscaping of the special landscape area. So if 3 caravan and after 7 caravan, the impact of the caravan was so great that they had to be moved. A barn of that nature is much bigger than the caravan would have been. Further to that, the applicant put a planning application for some new gate with lighting, and the planning inspector said this part of the world has to stay rural by its nature. It's a special landscape. With the column, the lighting column, it looks like the airport of Heathrow. It has column, and you can see that I go to Desborough or to the A508, and there you see the light to a point that I thought it was a new stadium in Desborough having a match on non-day. And I have sent a picture. I don't know if you can show it there. And that is a picture that is taken from Arrington, so you are talking 4 miles away, and it's on a grey day on the back things, and that is the light you see. And you see that all around because it's on the ridge. So that, and sometimes you have 4 lights like that. So that's all what I have to say, and I hope you will be able.
So see what your questions. I've got a question for you. So that light, is that coming from the lampposts we've seen in the early pictures on the presentation?
We cannot tell you because during the day they are not there, but those lights and all the little light you see, when I said it looked like a parking, of all those little lights are on the site. So unfortunately, the closer you get to the site, the less you can take the impact. I have tried to take some impact, and unfortunately, because I live in Arsingworth, people know me. When one day I tried to take a picture, it was very uncomfortable, so I decided not to take picture anymore. And a lot of people have tried to take picture, but it is very difficult. We can see it, but if we take a picture of the sky, you don't know where it comes from. So it's very difficult, but it's there.
normal size lamppost. It's giving out that light.
Yes, but that is one of those lights, because it cannot be another light.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for Cecile? Okay, thank you very much. Anything you want to come back on there, Amy, before we go to questions? No? Any questions, Amy? Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm concerned about the fact that our colleagues in North Northants have come to a very different conclusion than we have. Clearly, you know, they're abiding by the same planning principles that we do. And, you know, we're both very similar in terms of, you know, our council and officers makeup. So I just wanted to, if you could further elaborate why we've come to a different conclusion than what they've come to, and clearly what the parish council and the ward councillors have come to as well. Thank you.
In short, that's the nature of planning. I mean, ask two planners the same question, you'll get two different answers. I mean, the officers visited the site, assessed the site and come to a view, having regard to the same policies. Clearly the officer from Northamptonshire visited the site, or I assume they visited the site and looked at it, looked at the policies within our area and come to a different view. I mean, that's the nature of planning. In terms of the site itself, clearly there are two issues here. There's the presence of the building and there's the lighting. And it's a case of looking at that. Lighting, in my view, can be controlled by condition in terms of the existing lighting. The lighting from the existing building could be controlled by condition. And the advice from government is very clear is that if you can mitigate the impact of development by condition, then that's the route you should be looking at. The building, there's no getting over the building, it's a big building, but again, it's the impact on the landscape. I would suggest that the building is typical of many buildings you see in an open countryside setting. I would also suggest that many activities in the open countryside include equine type activities, but I do accept that members' concerns about the lack of formal justification on the need for the building and the need for the size. I can only go from the history of the site. There is a history of equine activities within the site, as set out in the planning history.
And what mitigating conditions could we put around the lighting, say we were to do that, in terms of our options available to us as a committee?
Again, there are conditions on the report and there are conditions on the addendum. I mean, further conditions, I mean, for example, in the building itself, you could require those windows to be removed to avoid any natural light going into it. I mean, you've got to balance that with health and safety and placing a burden upon an applicant to use electricity to light the building whilst they're using it during the day. Similarly, the existing lamp standards you've seen there, you could condition that to require those to be tested, to be altered, etc., to minimise light spill from the site in order to meet existing sort of dark sky standards, etc. So there are tools within the planning regime that help mitigate the impact of development.
Yes, thank you. Is this a permanent site for the residents on there, or is it a transit site, one thing? Just one question, because there were 3 caravans and now there's 7. That's one question. The other question is, with the lighting, I realise that light pollution is a problem, but if you live in the middle of the countryside, you have to rely on torches and various other things, and it can be extremely dark. And there are canopies you can put over lights so they reflect just down rather than... and sometimes I always think the street lightings in our area aren't sufficient really for being able to see. So in the countryside it must be even worse. So I'm just thinking if we could modify the lighting. And if they're using the building for horses, if that's the case, then maybe some natural light is pleasant for an animal rather than anything else. So I just wanted to know what the building was used for. It says storage, but if they've got equine, then maybe the horses are kept in there out of bad weather.
Sorry, Chairman. In terms of the planning history, the site is a traveller site. It's secured permissions for those, so people are capable of living there, travelling community, and they can come and go, much as their their lifestyle will allow, and that's how they live their lives, as it were. In terms of the lighting, yes, you know, there are physical ways of reducing lighting and mitigating it in terms and striking that balance between protecting dark sky and providing sort of a safe place to live in terms of being able to see around the site as you move around the site. The lighting, as I understand it, is focused in the area where the existing mobile units, etc., are located, so it's to assist the family in that location. I'm not aware there's any lighting in and around the building itself, apart from the lighting being seen through the windows.
And it says storage for the building.
Oh yeah, sorry. Again, you know, the applicant, let's be honest, hasn't been forthcoming in providing full detail. My understanding is, and they've stated it's used for storing of hay, machinery, horse trailers, that sort of thing. I'm not aware that there's horses being held in there. There are other stables that have been approved, as indicated in the planning history. So those horses could well be kept in those areas. But again, it's a building. They've indicated that they're using it in connection with their existing activities on the site. So in that sense, you know, what you're left with here is the use acceptable? The answer is probably yes in that sort of location. It's the physical presence of the building. Is that acceptable? That's one where, again, officers have concluded different opinions depending on which authority you're working with.
Thank you. Councillor Fred.
Thank you, Chairman. Elim, could I just ask you, page 61 of the report, I think one of the things that bothers me rather is the comments by environmental health on it's saying here it has a big roof area, large rain runoff. There's no information they're saying of where that goes. There's also, they have problems on the site with the sewage from the site system, flooding the ditch just adjacent to the site. And there's, if you look at it, there's reports of a pool of water on the Rugby Road. That's one point I'd really like a bit more information, if you have it. And on the lighting issue, personally, I can't see any great problems because, as the environmental health have said, there have been no complaints about it, and a couple of residential properties, one is only 1 kilometre away, and if there are problems in the future, it can be dealt with under the statutory nuisance legislation. So I'd really like a comment on that. So could you just give me a bit of information about those 2 points, please?
On the first one, I don't have any more information other than what the environmental health officers have said. Clearly, the building will have runoff. Again, if members are concerned about surface water drainage, etc., you could impose a condition to require those details to be provided and implemented. And as regards the lighting, again, as I've indicated, there are ways of seeking to control that high condition. No, compliance with that condition in due course is obviously something that we would have to take into account, but the fact is that there are tools and mechanisms that we can use to mitigate and pursue that in terms of reducing light pollution from the site. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions to Elim? Peter.
Thank you. Why haven't we conditioned controlling the light in the proposal?
I think the answer to that's in the addendum. I'm just looking for it now, Chairman.
Aha.
Yeah. Just for the benefit of members, the addendum sets out additional conditions: no means of external lighting either attached to a building or freestanding other than what is approved under this permission is permitted on site without the prior written consent of the local planning authority. Condition 2, the development hereby permitted shall, in respect of the lighting, remain in complete accordance with the information contained. I won't read it all out, but there are 2 conditions set out there.
Oh, still in business.
Yeah.
So these windows, are the windows, are they the ones on the roof, are they considered in planning terms? What I would call sort of Velux windows in a domestic setting. Do planning officers consider those to be windows? And in other words, if a window is in a roof, is it still considered to be a window? That's what I'm trying to ask.
No, it's a glass. When's a door, not a door?
Yeah, when it's ajar.
I mean, yeah, they are. They are panels. I mean, in terms of allowing natural light into buildings. I mean, they're a common feature of both commercial buildings and large agricultural buildings. They're there. Basically, I imagine a translucent sort of panel, similar to the other roofing panels, that just allows natural light to go into the buildings. They're not there to allow people to look out onto them or look out from them.
Yeah.
They're there just to provide natural light within the building during the day.
But the okay, yeah. I mean, it's an open barn, isn't it? I'm puzzled as to, you know, since you're storing sort of agricultural and equine materials, why you'd need them when the sides are open. But anyway, and as the parish council said, I note that the under the Windows section, I'm looking at it here, it says not applicable. But, anyway, yeah, interested in other people's views.
Okay, we're going to go to comments then. So, any comments, Harry?
Yeah, just one from me. Just jumping on Councillor Frost's point there. What's the purpose / need of those windows if it's storing hay? Is my argument. So why do we need to? But you know, from a conditional point of view, is that something we could look at? I think you said earlier it was, but because of the, I'm conscious of. I know it's a kilometre away, but that light at night. If that picture, obviously it's conjecture because we don't have evidence of that, but I'm conscious if there are housing within a kilometre, there's no need. If we condition the covering of those three, is it three? Three on picture there. If we condition the covering of those, that light pollution, as it were, sorry, 7, doesn't become an issue into the darker nights. The true use of the building, then, if it's just storing hay and machinery, then there isn't a need for that, in my view. That's just my view there.
Thank you. Any comments? Councillor Beardsley?
Yes, I think as long as the lights were fixed so that they didn't cause so much light pollution and actually allow them to see themselves around the site. I'm just a little bit concerned about these lights in this roof, because I just thought they were there to illuminate when people were working in the barn rather than have electric light. I mean, I might be somewhat naive, but basically I've got skylights in my roof to get better light into my bedroom, so that's the natural way of things, and it's really nice looking up and seeing the stars and the moon and all the other bits. So maybe they like lying on their hay and looking at the stars.
That's your comment, Councillor.
Again, just my understanding is obviously they are roof lights. They're not lights. So they're not in themselves creating any illumination. The illumination's within the building. They're basically translucent sheets that allow light to enter into the building during the day. And again, it's literally to reduce the need to use electricity during the day when you're in the building. Again, just listening to the debate, the issue here is lighting can be controlled. It's whether or not you're comfortable with the physical presence of the building itself. And again, that's one for you to make a judgment on, members.
Thank you. Councillor Privet?
Thank you. A question for Emma. I mean, we're talking about these lights in the roof. I mean, is there any actually electricity in that building? Does it have lights, or is it a bit of a red herring that we're saying, well, there's no lighting in there anyway, it's just letting lighting during the daytime, at night time nothing's coming out? I don't know. Do we know that?
Well, again, I can only go from what I understand from local representations, which is that the building, the lights, the artificial light is visible from within the building to the surrounding countryside, and that conflicts with the policies on, the concern is that conflicts with the policies on dark sky, etc. But there are ways and mechanisms of seeking to control it. I would assume for a building that size, yeah, they would have electricity within the building.
Yeah. I wonder whether we put a condition on to say, well, we put blinds on the window or something like that. Cover the windows.
Yeah, I think we're jumping around. From the building is there. It's in nature. It's not standing out, is it, in terms of the demographic of where it is? Its purpose is for what it is, and it's common to see in that type of area. So, when we're looking at different conditions now, I move to conditions of use rather than are we okay with the building from my perspective. So I would be looking at my problem then that goes about enforcing the condition. I think that's going to be a challenge, would be covering those 7 to stop light escaping. So then we're not causing residents a light nuisance. So, but I am concerned around the enforceability of that. So, but I want to hear colleagues' views on that before I.
Any other comments? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Let me have a piece further. Did you indicate?
Thank you. A question for Eamon, if I may, please. Councillor Parker very eloquently stated that he thought this proposal was against BN9, which was pollution control, i.e. the light issue. We've already discussed the fact that that can be controlled, and we can condition that something shield prevents it from being seen from a distance, so there's lighting only the area on the ground, for example. Councillor Parker also said that this application was against ENV2 and RA6. Is it your statement that in your view this application does not contravene ENV2 and RA6, please?
I think, well, I didn't write the report, another officer, but, yeah, but it's my view it complies with policy. But as we heard in the earlier conversations, another planner and another authority has taken an alternative view. Again, you members are as familiar with the policies as I am and are perfectly capable of coming to a view on the acceptability of the proposal.
In regards to lighting, really, can we actually, with the roofing, I don't know if it's a prefabricated building, it comes as a pre-pack. Can we actually just say, can we have the panels on the roof covered up with standard roofing? Or can we, actually another thing, can we strategically plant around it as well? Is that something we can ask, or a question that can be asked? Or is that beyond planning's?
I think that you can ask for anything. Ultimately, the judgment is whether or not that's reasonable and meets the tests of planning conditions. Again, you've had a discussion about lighting from the site. Now, there are 2 aspects to that. There's the freestanding lighting, and again, you have to be clear about how you're going to control that. We have suggested conditions. There's the ability to see artificial light from outside of the building that's emanating from the building. Again, you can impose conditions to basically stop that happening at night. If the lights are on at night, then you don't need the roof lights for those purposes. How enforceable that condition is, and there is an ability of the applicants to seek or to appeal or to seek to vary the condition. But a condition given, if members conclude that there's a dark sky policy here that you want to protect, you could put a condition on there to require those translucent panels to be covered by some form of mechanical means that can be retracted or whatever at night time. Again, that has all sorts of implications in terms of maintaining that and that sort of thing. But those sorts of mechanical sort of mechanisms, tools are there for you to have a think about. Thanks, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Very, very quickly. Surely, if these are going to be a problem, surely they could just black them out with black paint, at least if they're translucent panels, if we wanted them to reduce the light. Is that not a possibility? Rather than mechanical things that can break and do things.
Well, that's your decision, members. We've put the recommendation that it's acceptable, but clearly, if you feel that they should be painted out, then one immediate thing is that you then robbing the person of the ability to use natural light to the building during the day. But yeah, that's no, the ability to impose more conditions is at your leisure. You have to think carefully about whether or not those conditions meet the tests and the reasons for imposing those. And again, there are mechanical ways of, pulling shutters down or whatever during the hours of darkness.
Yeah, Simon, have you got any, listening to the discussion there, have you got any...
let's go to the
Okay.
Because it might be So we are where we are. So do have a proposer to accept the officer's recommendation. So Peter is proposed. Do you have a second?
With a condition, please.
Okay, hold on. What's your condition?
That those standing lights have some kind of reflector or shield to prevent the light from going up in the sky, so that it's reflecting into the yard rather than up into the sky. Insofar as light coming out of the windows, call it what you like, in the roof lights, I think they can be dealt with as a statutory nuisance if residents think that it is a statutory nuisance, because under policy we do look to protect dark skies, and therefore that can be dealt with in that way, and officers can then, or enforcement officers can then ask for particular wattages of bulbs to be put in, or whatever it may be, or the skylights to be covered. That can be done afterwards. So my proposal is that we accept officers' advice with the condition of those standard lights that we saw having shields to reflect the light down onto the ground, not up into the sky.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Oh, Councillor Favour, the second that? Yeah. All those in favour? 3. Against? 5 against. So do I have an alternative proposal then? Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. I agree with parts of that. I just think we need to go a bit further in terms of those 7 windows, hence my pre-assertion for Simon to come in with some different wording of that. Sorry, Simon. I think we need to go a bit further there. I think we need to protect the dark sky. I think we need to protect neighbours' views and optics of that as well. So my condition attached to what we've just heard would be a closure of those 7 windows, or whatever you're going to call them, in the night time. In the daytime, as we've said, that's okay. So it's a retractable whatever. I don't know the contraption, but at night time, in the dark, that those 7 are closed. So words to that effect, Simon. You're good at this.
Chair, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
This point about the night time. The sides are open, aren't they? And that being the case, right? They're not. They're not. Okay, that's what was confusing me, because I saw one photo where they're shut, and then I saw another photo. They look open there.
That's a vehicle.
Oh, that's a vehicle, is it?
That's a vehicle parked outside. Just get into these. Basically, the building's a solid building with doors at either gable ends. I understand. So yeah,
okay.
It's a solid timber cladding with one door. I think that door is repeated on the other side.
So it'll be dark during the day with the roof light covered.
So again, sorry, my apologies. I've communicated that.
Back to Councillor Barrett's proposal there. Simon, can you help us?
So these are solid.
Thank you.
Could we have a proviso that the lights go out inside the bar at a certain time?
So let's see what time has.
Well, just building on the earlier point, you've got to think through this as a retrospective application. So we're dealing with a thing that exists at the moment. We've got to deal with timing. We can't put a trigger point in about prior to commencement or anything like that, because it's already up in place. So I'm thinking on the columns, you've got within 3 months of the date of this permission, a scheme for shielding and realigning the 5 lighting columns shall be submitted and approved by the local planning authority, and then the work shall be carried out in accordance with those approved scheme within 3 months of approval. And then you do the similar arrangement for the internal protection to prevent light pollution from the 14 roof lights within the building. And that may be, leave that to the applicant to come up with a scheme, because that may be that you close it. It may be what Eamon was saying, a retractable arrangement or a mechanical arrangement. So the onus is on the applicant to come up with a scheme. within 3 months we approve the scheme and then it gets implemented. So that might be a way through. So two extra conditions along those lines, Chair.
Okay, happy with that?
Yeah, that's the proposal, yeah.
Okay, I'll second that. Second by Councillor Beard. All those in favour? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, against, abstentions. Okay, so that is passed with those conditions. Okay, thank you very much. So now moving on to item 5C, which is the Darlington Elim Church. Okay, Jonathan, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a planning application for Expo House, Lodge Way, Northampton, change of use from commercial office space into place of worship for the Elim Pentecostal Church, Northampton. Next slide, please. The plan in front of you shows the site location plan. The site is located close to Harrison Road, existing access point off Lodge Way. It's in the deployment allocation and local plan. The site has been vacant for a considerable period of time. It's been marketed as such unsuccessfully for office purposes. Next slide, please. There's no external works proposed to the building. This basically shows the building as existing elevations. Next slide. And again, another elevation of the building taken from two angles. Next slide. And again, another plan of the existing building. Next slide, please. This is a proposed layout of the building. It's hard to make out because it's quite small. Obviously, the stage is at the left-hand side of the building. The auditorium with seats for around 300 to 400 worshippers. Next slide, please. That's the photographs of the existing building and the existing access. Next slide. Again, the building, photographs of the building again on the right-hand side. Next slide. And again, more photographs. The property is not in a conservation area. It's not in a flood zone. There's been 3 comments from neighbouring properties. All the consultators supporting the application have visited the site and raised no objection to the proposal. Environment Health raised no objection subject to a noise condition, and the police have been consulted also and raised no objection as well. The application tonight has been recommended for approval, subject to conditions set down in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Just to remind Councillor Irving Swift and Councillor Hill, because you missed the beginning of that report, you won't be able to vote on this. But any questions to Jonathan on this application? Councillor Bearsworth.
Just wanted to know about the parking situation.
Sorry, thank you. I should have mentioned that. That was my omission. There's 225 car parking spaces adjacent to the building. In addition, the site is within 190 metres of the nearest bus stop on the Harrison Road and served by a number of bus stops. In addition, one of the conditions it recommends that cycle parking be agreed with the applicant, and that would be implemented prior to occupation. So as well as providing car parking in abundance, the site is sustainably served by bus routes and cycle parking.
Thank you very much. Any comments?
Question.
Okay, question then. Go on, Peter.
Thank you. Somebody wrote in wanting a hedge to be retained, but it doesn't say so in conditions that we're going to do so.
Thank you. The hedge is an existing elder hedge located close to access point of one of the residential properties. The agent has confirmed that the hedge would be retained, and it's not normally a condition that we'd put on, because obviously hedges can come and go, they can die, and they're hard to retain, but obviously that agent has confirmed that there's no intention to remove the hedge as part of the proposal.
Thank you. Any further questions? The officer's recommendation is for approval. I'm happy to propose we accept the recommendation. Councillor Flavel seconded it. All those in favour? That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, hold on. Put your hands up again. You can't vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Penny, were you in favour?
Sorry.
In favour?
What was your question?
In favour.
Oh yes, I put my hand up
Yes, I know. We have another count.
You
6.
didn't count, sorry.
Rupert, were you in favour? No.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so 7. Right. Okay. So that application is approved. So moving on to 5D, Toft Hill. Yeah, that's it. Just going to change chairs.
Just give me 2 seconds.
Seems to be getting warmer. Seems to be getting warmer. Yeah, we just went to the office. Okay, just switching over. Over to you then to present your report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application is, excuse me, 19 Rugby Road in Barby. The application before members is for the demolition of the existing dwelling house and some outbuildings, construction of 2 4-bed dwellings, 1 4-bed bungalow, 1 3-bed bungalow, and vehicular access improvements. Just to clarify, as per the addendum, the reason for the call-in from Councillor Humphreys is also because the Barby and Onley Parish Council requested it to be called in, and she feels it is contrary to policy BO-H3 of the Barby and Onley Neighbourhood Plan. Sorry, I've got a bit of a bad throat. The next slide basically shows the site location plan edged in red. The red edge is basically wholly within the confines of the village boundary. Next slide. This is from the local plan part 2 extract. If you can point, that is the boundary line. Eamon is just going across, which proves it is within the confines. This basically is the existing site plan. You can see in the middle there is the existing dwelling house. And to the north they're the stable blocks and the existing agricultural building there. So this is the proposed site plan. This shows the layout for the 4 new dwellings and associated garages and carport, and the main existing access, which was to the southern boundary, has been closed up, and a new one created slightly further up. This access will serve plots 1, 2 and 3. The second access further up, which is an existing access, will be improved and will serve plot 4. So in terms of the, sorry if we can go back to the previous plan, in terms of the plot 1, this is L-shaped 2-storey detached dwelling, has 4 bedrooms to the first floor. It will have a blank first floor elevation facing number 17, there is basically circa 9 metre separation between the nearest elevation of the plot 1 to the nearest elevation of the dwelling to the south, but that nearest elevation on that property is actually a garage. It's not the main dwelling, which is set further back. So that's the plot 2 It's a detached dormer bungalow, 3 bedrooms, 1 to the ground floor and 2 within the roof slope. As you can see, due to the location of that plot being to the western boundary, it's sort of fronted by, surrounded by countryside, and therefore this particular sort of plot has no bearing or overlooking issues or overbearing issues on any neighbouring properties whatsoever. So moving on to plot 3, it's again a 2-storey detached dwelling, 4 bedrooms, other than a window to an ensuite on the first floor facing number 21. There is no other windows, therefore there is no overlooking issues proposed, and there is good separation between the elevations of plot 3 to number 21. And again, the first element of the end element of number 21 is actually a triple garage, so the main body of the dwelling is set even further back. So then we come to plot 4. So this will be a detached dormer bungalow. It is on the boundary where, or in the similar position to where the actual agricultural building currently sits. It's sort of set in about 1 metre from the boundary. There will be a 2 metre high wall proposed on that boundary. The boundary is to the garden area of number 21. And other than a Velux roof light in the roof slope facing the garden area of number 21, there is no windows that would overlook that garden area. Also, just to sort of point out, the height of the bungalow proposed is not too dissimilar to the height of the existing agricultural barn. Next. Basically now we're just going through the sort of elevation and floor plans of the plots. You can see the detailing of the materials as well as the sort of window detailing, etc. So yeah, just to go. So plot 4 is a dormer bungalow as well. So the landscaping plan, you can see from there, the lighter coloured green is the area of new planting, and it's kind of with the new planting, etc. It also meets the net biodiversity that's required to, with all the other bad boxes, etc. that they're going to build in. Just some pictures. So we've got the existing dwelling as it stands. We've got the side elevation of the neighbouring property number 17. This is the triple garage to number 21, adjacent to the existing second access point. This is the existing main access that will be closed off. This is the second access that currently leads to the stable blocks and the agricultural building at the end. That is the stable blocks that are going to be demolished. Just the gable end of the garage off number 21, and to the north of the site lies open countryside, so that is outside of the confines. This, although on reflection, when you go on site, you think this should be countryside, but it's not, as we have seen from the local plan. The whole of the site is within. Just to show some of the sort of dwellings opposite the road, dormer bungalows, etc., detached, semi-detached, it's got variation, and that's basically the presentation in terms of what's there. But overall, it's deemed that the scheme is acceptable from Highways' point of view, visual, residential amenity, and with regards to biodiversity. There haven't been any objections from any consultees. However, like I said earlier, Barby and Onley Parish Council and some local residents have objected on the grounds that the site lies outside the confines, which we now know it doesn't. And that there will be some impact on residential amenity. Again, we've seen from the layout plan the very minimal impact on residential amenity. And there was also concerns of highway safety. However, highways are quite comfortable with the proposal, raised no objections, and concerns were also raised that the proposal for the dwellings as proposed 3 and 4 bedroom did not sort of conform to the local housing needs survey, and hence it was contrary to policy BOH3 of the neighbourhood plan. However, these have been addressed within the officer's report and in the addendum, which you hopefully have seen. There were concerns raised about flooding. However, a condition that we haven't got any drainage plans, but we have got a condition to say they must submit the drainage plans. Overall, there was 11 letters of objection and 1 letter of support. Therefore, it's recommended that 2 members that the application be approved, subject to the conditions in the officer's report.
Thank you very much. We have 3 speakers on this item. I believe they're going to join us via Teams. So Faith Gorman is first. Oh, sorry. There we are. Yes, we can see you, Faith. Hello. Can you hear us?
You can.
Okay. You have 3 minutes to address the meeting, and then just hang around to see if we've got any questions for you. Okay?
Okay. Can I just say the audio is appalling online, so we can hardly hear what is being said.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I'll remind members to speak into their microphones so that people at home can hear us clearly.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Faith Gorman. Sorry, I'm Faith Gorman. I'm chairman of the Barby and Omni Parish Council. As stated in the planning report, as the rural housing needs have been met and exceeded in the Daventry area, JCS Policy R1 is engaged, which states that further housing development will only be permitted under certain criteria. The criteria used to justify this development is Section 5. That is, it can be demonstrated that it is agreed through an adopted neighbourhood plan. However, this is not the case, as this development does not fulfil the criteria for development specified within our parish NDP. The planning report confirms that the design of this development will, and I quote, give rise to a varied and distinctive street scene for this section of Rugby Road. A development that gives rise to a varied and distinctive street scene does not protect the unique identity of the area, nor retain existing local identity or the existing rural character of the village, all of which are requirements for developments to be supported within our NDP. Hence, JCS R1 is not fulfilled and this development should not be permitted. The planning report also states that development is required to demonstrate environmental improvements to be compliant with R1. The report claims that this can be done as the existing property is in poor repair and the proposed development could be considered to lead to some environmental improvement. However, the property was lived in and maintained in good order by the previous owner until last year, and it is only the current developer that is not maintaining it. The open frontage of the houses on the west side of Rugby Road is of significance to the character and appearance of the area, and the proposed development will be detrimental to this. Equally, the development's proposed site layout does not protect the area's historic settlement pattern. Replacing one 3-bed house with 4 properties that have a total of 15 bedrooms will significantly impact upon the density of housing in the vicinity. All these points being contrary to H1, D1 and D2 of our NDP. The area around development regularly floods after heavy rain. In 22, WNC commissioned a flood risk plan for Barby, which confirmed that the area around the development was at risk from surface water flooding. Any new development in this area would escalate this problem and increase the risk of flooding to existing homes. ACOM reported in their recent HNA the parish's housing stock is significantly biased towards detached and semi-detached dwellings, which make up over 90% of the total. This figure is much higher than the district and national average. Acorn's recommendation was a focus on 2 to 3 bed homes to meet the needs of first-time buyers, plus 1 to 2 bed bungalows for older people looking to downsize but remain in the parish. Recent parish surveys also identified the needs for these types of housing. This development provides neither. We are not a NIMBY parish. We are currently reviewing our neighbourhood plan, and it will include a site allocation for the building of homes to meet parish needs in an appropriate location within the village. As Barby is a secondary service village with a Met rural housing quota, under the JCS, this housing development is not permitted, and it does not fulfil any of the exception criteria of R1, including not meeting the criteria for development as specified within our neighbourhood plan. Hence, this application should not be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech. I'll just see if anybody here has any questions for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Beardsworth has a question for you.
I'll try and speak very clearly. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just say that to me it's just such a shame that got ring back. Such a shame that these days we're building so many 2, 4 bedroom houses when we've got people that want to buy and live in the village close to their family, that we don't get more starter homes. It just seems a shame to me that we don't use these bits of land to either build houses for young people or, as you say, for old people to actually live in and move out to the bigger properties. I just feel, do you agree with me that there should be more starter homes in your area for younger people to live in?
Yes, totally. We've done parish surveys that have actually showed that.
Thank you very much.
Voting within the parish.
Thank you. Okay, we have the next speaker, please, Andrea.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. My camera seems to have packed up, I'm afraid.
That's fine, we can hear you, which is the important thing.
I agree with Faith. Unfortunately, the audio has been really quite difficult. I'll do my best, and I hope you can hear me clearly. I agree with everything that Faith has said. I've read the report from the officer, and obviously everything's from the point of view of number 19. So I just wanted to give the viewpoint from number 17. In the presentation, it was stated that plot 1 would back onto our garage. Well, our garage is a low-level garage with a flat roof, and in fact, there is a bedroom facing directly onto plot 1 that has a door access onto the flat roof. So it's not quite as was presented in the presentation. Similarly, the effect of overseeing has been considered in terms of the proposed development overseeing us, but there is also the reverse to consider, so that we actually have a balcony on our western elevation, which would overlook plot 2, which has been there ever since we bought the property 16 years ago, which directly overlooks plot 2's garden and patio, and probably into their house as well. So that just needs to be taken into consideration. The flood risk is a serious consideration for us. So not only do we have the issue of the storm drain outside of our property, which is not outside of number 19, which tends to flood when there's any heavy rain, as indicated by the photos I submitted in my objection. But also it's noted in the application for Toft Hill that they're in a low risk flood area. Our property is actually in a medium risk flood area from groundwater, if you look on the government website. So although the proposed development might be okay, I'm concerned that this development, with the enhanced area of tarmac and so on, and lack of runoff for groundwater, might significantly increase our flood risk. I'm not clear on although the access has been improved for the proposed development, our access is actually quite difficult at the moment anyway, as we're on a convexity of a bend, which has been extensively looked at in the application. I'm not going to go into that now, but we do struggle already with safely getting in and out of our driveway on foot and in the car. And I am concerned about the impact of the number of vehicles that would be involved with a 4-house development next door. I'm going to also reiterate what Faith said, is that we're not a NIMBY village. I think this site is a large site for a property of only 3 bedrooms. However, I think this development is just a bit too much and is going to have too much of an impact on the local area. The issue of the bats, I think, has been reviewed in the report as well, but there have been bat roosts both in the house and in one of the outbuildings, I understand, and that required a special licence, as far as I'm aware. I think that's all I've got to say. I'm aware that you've been at this meeting quite a long time. I don't want to overstay my welcome, but I hope that puts the point of view from number 17.
Okay, thank you very much. Just if there are any questions for you. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. There aren't any questions, so I'll now call on Councillor Humphreys to join us. Okay, just a reminder, you have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Good evening. The first reason given for calling in this application was and remains is that there's no demonstrable need for 4 further larger sized dwellings in Barby, and the proposal is contrary to policies of the Barby and Onley NDP. I'll focus solely on why the application is contrary to NDP policy H3, thereby not complying with H1, and consequently why the relevant provisions in the statutory development plan cannot be relied on to support this application. My fellow ward councillors, Councillor Malcolm Longley and Councillor Alan Chantler, support this call-in and these representations. Policy H3 requires all new housing development to demonstrate how they contribute to providing suitable dwellings to ensure that there's a mix of types of size of dwelling in the parish. It's clear from Table 2 under Policy 3 that there's been a very substantial under-provision of 1 and 2 bedroom houses, by contrast to substantial over-provision of 4 bedrooms in Barby. This point is also supported by the Housing Needs Survey by ACOM undertaken last year as part of the review, as well as recent local parish surveys, which you've heard about from Councillor Gorman. The village already has a higher than average, both locally and nationally, number of 4-bedroom properties. The Parish Council rightly objects to adding 3 more to their number when a site has now been allocated in their revised NDP for 4 dwellings of appropriate mix of sizes. A housing needs survey may not be needed as the site is now within the confines, but it is still highly relevant evidence for determining this application. As the proposal does not comply with Policy H3, it cannot comply with Policy H1. This policy lists 6 criteria where proposals for housing within Barby and Onley villages will be permitted. In particular, H1F, the proposal, is in accordance with all relevant policies within this neighbourhood plan. This proposal clearly is not in accordance, and it does not contribute to the mix of dwellings that the village needs. Consequently, the relevant policies of the local plan Part 2 and the joint core strategy are not engaged. Firstly, RA2 secondary services villages, and specifically RAD, development that's provided for in a made neighbourhood plan will be supported. A development here adding to the existing over-provision of 4-bedroom homes is not supported. Secondly, policy R1 of the joint core strategy, specifically R15, housing provision where the rural housing requirements have already been met, will only be permitted where it has been agreed through an adopted NDP. There is no agreement in either the made NDP or in the updates submitted this May in the plan review to the further provision of 4-bedroom homes in Barby. The proposal is more finely balanced than this report suggests, as the relevant policies in the NDP have been overlooked and the provisions of R15 and RAD cannot be said to be complied with. While you have the recommendation before you, the decision is yours to make, and you have legitimate reasons to refuse this application. Thank you.
Remain there whilst see if there's any questions for you. Any questions for Councillor Humphreys? No? Okay, thank you very much. Anything you want to come back on there that you heard in the reports?
The only thing is the neighbourhood plan is 2016 and the policies we're attributing to this application is 2020. So, you know, there is a time lapse. The local housing needs survey is also out of date, that has been referred to. There is a current one that was done in 2023, but that is an appendix to the neighbourhood plan, so it is still at pre-submission stage, therefore can't be taken into account, or has little weight.
Thank you very much. Any questions to the officer? Paul?
Yeah, it's just a quick one, really. It's in regards to, I think it's 8.32 about the flood zone. Can anything be done to to look at that, please? Really, I mean, in regards to the property, obviously I know it's mentioned by I think one of the person that was online, obviously about the flood risks, about obviously impact on other neighbouring properties. So, is there anything we can do or look at or enhance?
Well, Yeah, there is a condition within the report that requires full details of drainage, etc., to be submitted and approved by the LLFA. So hopefully those details will be comprehensive to avoid any sort of flooding issues or any more flooding issues than currently exist.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Councillor Bearsworth.
I just wanted to know whether the school was at any risk, if there's a primary school close by that the people use, at any risk of closure, because unless we get young families in there, and young families don't usually buy 4-bedroom houses, it could affect schooling as well.
It's not really anything to do with the planning application in front of us. Peter, is that a question or a comment?
It's a question, thank you. Speakers, a number of, all said about BOH3, and if I remember correctly, in your presentation you referred to H3 and gave an explanation why it didn't matter in this case. Could I trouble you to repeat that, please?
Sorry, I think policy H3 basically, if I'm correct, it required all proposals for new housing development will have to demonstrate how they contribute to providing suitable dwellings to ensure the mix of types and size of dwellings. So, like I said, the housing needs survey, the current one, expired, it was done in 2019, so that's out of date anyway. So there is no housing needs survey that we can refer to that says this mix is required. So like I said, there is one that was done in October 23 by AECOM, but it is part of the neighbourhood plan and it is at a pre-submission stage, so only limited weight can be given to it. I did confirm this view with our policy section and the housing officer, and they both agreed with that view.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add something, Amy, to that?
Yeah, I just want to, we're hearing a lot of policy being referred to here. There's also an issue in that the Joint Core Strategy is 2014, the neighbourhood plan, as I understand, is 2016, and then the Part 2 local plan, which is 2020. So, as I said earlier in the debate, things change over time, and if there is tensions between policies, you have to take the most recent and the most up-to-date policy, which would be the Part 2 local plan. I just want to quote from, it's RA2, which basically is a secondary service village that Barby is defined as. It allows for development within the confines of the village, but it doesn't place any requirement to provide housing to meet identified need. The policy, however, goes on to basically look at exception sites outside the confines where there's a requirement to meet identified need. So what I would be saying to members is that you have to have regard to RA2 as the most up-to-date policy relating to Barby Village and respective development within the confines of the village. For this type or this level of development, there isn't a requirement to meet the identified need. Now, had the site been outside the confines of the village, then criteria B basically requires to be an exception site to meet identified local need. So I just wanted to sort of set that context for members. Thank you.
Okay, so we move on to comments then. Any comments on this application? Oh, Councillor Bearsworth.
Yeah, I must admit I'm very disappointed that we're always getting these huge properties being built when we're desperately short of starter homes for young couples and old age pensioners having smaller bungalows they can move to if they want to leave their bigger properties. And all the time we keep building these huge properties, and to me they don't meet the needs that we need. I was a housing portfolio and I can tell you there's a real need for smaller properties, and you could get more on this site if you built them.
Okay, thank you very much. Eamon?
Again, just to provide context, Barby Village has had exception sites approved in the past to the south end of the village next to the school. So there is precedent for allowing exception sites to meet identified local need. And as I say, this proposal, being within the confines of the village, you have to have regard to that policy and think about whether or not there is a justifiable planning reason for refusing it based on the lack of need or your perception that the proposal is not meeting need. Thank you.
Okay. So the officer's recommendation is for approval. Do you have a councillor wishing to approve? So proposed by Councillor Hill, seconded by Councillor Flavel. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favour. Against? 1 against and 2 against. Thank you very much. So you'll be pleased to hear we're halfway through the agenda. Okay, so moving on to 5E, we're going to have a swap over of officers again, and this is the Co-op Barry Road car park. Okay, I'll leave in a minute. Are you there, Bob? Can you hear us?
Chair, I realise that by leaving now I won't be able to play any of this application, but I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to wait for Peter to come back, and then he said it'd only be a minute. Okay, right, Jonathan, over to you. Let's look at Barry Road Co-op.
Thank you, Chair. Your attention's drawn to the addendum with additional conditions being proposed contained within. I'll give you a second just to read that. This is a planning application for the erection of 2 detached two-story dwellings in Barry Road car park to the rear of the existing Co-op supermarket. Next slide, please. The plan front view shows you the site location, close to the junction of Wellenborough Road. It's actually would be accessed off Barry Road. Existing car park, which can accommodate in the region of probably about 30-40 cars. The end of the car park is to be developed for 2 detached two-story 3-bedroom dwellings, as shown on the plan in front of you. 2 gardens, 9.6 metres in length, off-road parking provided in front, access off Barry Road, existing properties located on the left-hand side, 8 attached properties. Next slide. The slide in front of me shows the design of the properties in elevational form with the floor plans at the bottom. The design has been negotiated with the applicant to seek improvements in terms of the roof design to be more in keeping with the adjacent properties. Next slide. Again shows the design of the properties. Next slide. Photographs of the existing street scene. It is quite a busy road, Barry Road. Cars heavily parked along the street. You can see it's on-street parking predominantly. Existing car park is well underused for most of the time, apart from school pick-off time between 2:45 and 3 o'clock when it's used a bit in a busy period of time. The rest of the time it's used, it's only subject to maybe 5-10 cars for most of the day. Next slide. The site is adjacent to the Billing Road Cemetery, which is in the conservation area. This site itself is actually outside the conservation area. There's actually a boundary wall at the back of the site, which is of historical significance and has been identified with conservation and is to be retained as part of the development. The recommendation tonight is for approval. There's been no objection from highways. There's been a number of objections from local residents. The conditions are set out in the report. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. We have two speakers on this. I'll call on Nick Hemingway first, please. If you'd like to address the meeting, just say who you are, who you represent. You have 3 minutes.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chair. My name is Nick Hemingway, and I'm making this statement as a representation of Living Streets Northampton, which is part of the overall National Living Streets charity, and also Cycling UK, the local chapter. We object to the development as it stands, and it was mentioned by the officer, part of this about the Billing Road Cemetery, but we would be supportive of the development if it were to come with additional conditions. The objections fall under relevant categories, but namely they're founded in a missed opportunity ultimately. Now, I can't speak as eloquently as others and quote elements of planning frameworks, but the charity recognises opportunities here within the draft West Northants Council local cycling walking infrastructure plan and also the overall local transport plan, where, since the last ones have been published and are seeking approval, and it's been a very, very long time that those have been documented as a result of the changes in authorities, a heavy focus on sustainability and sustainable transport. That is a busy street scene, as was identified, and it is also a busy school. And at the moment, the method of transport for those schools is predominantly car-based. We see a missed opportunity here really for there to be much more encouragement of sustainable travel, namely walking and wheeling. As a result of the development, were conditions to be placed on it to support the local street area. The rationale really is that there is an opportunity here identified within the draft cycling and walking infrastructure plan to provide better east-west connectivity between the town centre and the Abington area, and ultimately at the moment the draft plan fails to identify suitable east-west routes, and yet what is here as a proposed development is something that has a sustainable area of green space which is owned and ultimately operated by the council, adjacent to a property which is being proposed for development by the cooperative, who have sustainable development goals and commitments to their own stakeholders in the local area to provide for the local community. And we see this opportunity really as a condition of development being opening access for the Billing Road Cemetery on an east-west basis to allow sustainable transportation between the Vernon Terrace location and the Barry Road development here, which perhaps would reduce the amount of car traffic that you see and encourage further east-west travel in and out of the town as part of the development. We're not experts in development and planning policy. We realise that draft conditions of approval, as stated in the report, can't necessarily be given full weight from that point of view, but we put it in good faith to the committee to give consideration of this and potentially consider what opportunities there are to improve the local area, speaking both as a local resident and also part of the organisation. To take the opportunity to work with the co-op to encourage this development.
Thank you. Stay there, that's a good question. So does Billing Road Cemetery come up right over there then?
The wall, which is shown in the picture on the report, which there is an element to it which has been rebuilt, actually fell down for a period of time, and I have some photos from when we worked with the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan consultancy and demonstrated that actually opening access across that east-west span could form the basis actually of a full east-west arc into town on a low traffic route, effectively connecting the Vernon Terrace side of the town into the Barry Road and then up King Edward Road up to the park, where you'll probably know there's an approved cycle route which is being done as part of the active travel plan. So if anything, we just see it as a massively missed opportunity. Now, the council officers for transportation and sustainable travel will say they have not decided yet on what the final alignment of this is, but I think if we were to take inspiration from other towns, we would say if the bonnet is up on such a development like this and the impact to the overall scheme is low, and the nature of it is that it could afford access in a reasonable way and not make the development uneconomical, why wouldn't we place a condition on it to allow that and actually improve the amenity as well?
Okay.
If you speak to the Friends of Billing Road Cemetery, because bear in mind that at the moment is unadopted as a result of the dissolution of the previous councils, part of the problem they have in there is a significant amount of things like drug use and antisocial behaviour because the amenity is not well used. There are only 2 entrances and it is not a through route. It is effectively a dead end with only 2 means of access.
That's great, thank you. Any other questions? No? No? Okay, thank you very much. Bob, can you hear us? Are you there, Bob?
Yes, I think I can.
Brilliant, well done. So, we can't see you at the moment, but hopefully, in a moment. Yeah, we go, we can see you.
We see you.
Okay, you know the rules, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for not being able to attend it in person. I'm away this week, as is Councillor Smith. As you've heard, Barry Road is very close to the Wellingborough Road. It's a very congested area. We've got the Co-op store itself. We've got a pedestrian crossing across Barry Road. We've got the primary school. We've got a new estate agent opening with flats above on the former vacant site on the corner of Barry, on the eastern side of Barry Road. That's an excellently designed building, but it will bring additional use, both car and people, onto that street. We've got a very busy primary school where parents have traditionally picked up and dropped off their children in the Co-op car park, both at morning and the afternoon periods. So they're going to lose that facility. So that's going to put additional pressure onto the street. And that's going to be difficult for dropping off children. We recognise the need for housing, and nobody argues for that more than I do, but this is just for 2 units. So our concern is really about, and the residents' concern is about the congestion that this will bring to the area, and that we don't see that there have been any steps to mitigate that congestion and any steps taken to work with the primary school to ensure that it is safe for children to be dropped off and picked up in the area around Covington Street and Barry Road. So that is our concern about this application. We fully support the houses, but it does raise issues about the impact on space for delivering and picking up children. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. See if there's any questions for you. Any questions of Councillor Purser? Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Bob, can you hear me?
Just.
Yeah, hang on, I'll get a bit closer. There we go. Is that better?
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
Brilliant. Thanks for your comments. I think looking at the development, I'm kind of looking at it as a brownfield development, brown site development, which I think we always speak about. We're in favour in, and I know that you're a big advocate of housing as well in the town. So I'd be interested to see what you would, what you would prefer to have there, because for me, it ticks a lot of boxes currently, and I know also in the car park, I know it well, and I know it isn't used at all. It's very rarely used, really, considering how big it is. So yeah, just want to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Yes, I mean, my thoughts are that it is heavily used at school pick-off and drop-off times, so it's absolutely congested at those times of day, and really some action is going to need to be taken about how children are safely picked up and delivered to Barry Road Primary School.
Thank you. Remember, it's about the application in front of us, not what we wish for. Any other questions for Councillor Purser? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bob. Anything you want to come back on there with Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. I thought Mr. Hemingway spoke very well, and it's very admirable to see your desire for sustainable development. A couple of things come back on. Condition 4 of the plan approval recommendation does state that cycle parking needs to be provided as part of the development. So obviously that's a positive thing in promoting sustainable forms of development. Condition 5 also states that the car parking would be retained as part of development, as part in front of the dwellings. One of the problems I have is in terms of the link through to the cemetery. Whilst that would be admirable in principle, I'm not sure how it would work logistically. Obviously the 2 gardens of the dwellings back onto the cemetery, conservation have quite clearly in the comments commented that they want to see the historical wall retained, and to puncture that wall would be really a concern from a conservation point of view. In addition, obviously we can't condition anything outside the red line, but application site is defined by the planning application location plan. So really the two back gardens of the properties back onto the cemetery, so really you'd have to provide a link through from the cemetery which is going to the back gardens of the properties, which is just not really feasible. So I really can't, while your ideas are extremely admirable in principle, I'm not really sure how it would work logistically.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Any questions for Jonathan? Any? Oh, yes. Councillor Fable.
Thank you. Could I just ask Jonathan, the wall to the cemetery is, I think, the original wall, is it not? It's very old, and if so, can we, I didn't see a condition telling the developer to... Oh, sorry, well, because I'm so close to him, he can hear me. I didn't see a condition saying to the developer that work needs to be very careful with regard to the wall. I mean, have you raised any points with that?
The plans actually stipulate that the walls to be retained, and that has actually been agreed as well in writing with the applicant. You are quite correct. There are no additional conditions that stipulate that a careful construction plan to be implemented to protect the wall. It is if you want, it could be conditioned to ensure the wall is retained, but obviously as the applicant has confirmed in writing and the plans that the wall is to be retained, and there's approved plans condition on the recommendation, then we've taken that as the kind of confirmation from the applicant.
Thank you. Could I just carry on? I really just feel that at this stage, if we agree this, which we may not of course, that something needs to be done so that whoever moves into the houses, they cannot help but look after the wall. So the developer needs to do something to the wall so that it's secure and safe, because it is a very, very old wall. Now, I don't know how you put that, and I don't know what they do, but I'd like to see something done about it.
Again, if it's an element of doubt or requiring clarification, members are entitled or free to impose a condition with the knowledge that, provided it meets the tests, and also even if you're satisfied it's reasonable and proportionate to the development, etc., the applicants do have a right of appeal. But I take the point, if you feel that there's insufficient clarity on that, you could impose a condition to say the wall shall be retained or repaired in accordance with the drawings and thereafter retained. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, but if the wall is within the conservation area, then it would have some protection in its own right.
My understanding is the wall is on the boundary of the conservation area with the cemetery, so actually by definition, if it was in the conservation area, you need planning permission relevant demolition to demolish the wall. But in this context, the actual wall falls in the boundary of the cemetery. I believe it actually falls, as confirmed by the applicant, in the application site. So by definition, I understand the wall is just outside the conservation area.
In which case, I'd recommend, if members are concerned, to impose a condition.
Thank you, which moves us on to comments.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy to propose we accept the officer's condition, recommendation with the condition that Councillor Fable mentioned about the wall, that we stipulate that it's retained and repaired if possible.
Are you happy to second that proposal, Councillor Fable? Do we have that condition written down? We have it? Fantastic. So all those in favour? So that's unanimous for that one. Thank you.
Is there a chance for comfort break?
I was about to say, we've got 3 items left. Okay. I believe we could get these done in half an hour. Okay. Could you wait half an hour?
Well, they've been waiting all night. I could cancel the meeting. No, okay. We're going to move on to item 5F then. And we are going to have a look at a train track. Oh, sorry, Eamon.
Thanks, Chairman. Again, as the slide indicates, well, the slide will indicate. I can see it. This is an application for the proposed construction of a multifunction train care building, a realignment of existing tracks, an internal access road, a retaining wall, provision of new tracks, landscaping and associated works in respect of an existing rail facility. Again, as you can see from the plan, the site lies within a long-established rail maintenance facility. The proposed building is required to provide basically a better working environment for those working there and maintaining trains, etc., under cover. The building itself will be located in this area over the existing rail sidings. It'll provide, as I say, a safer environment for those working. Building is a long, narrow building, not particularly high, not particularly wide, and sufficient to provide for the needs of the occupants and the operators on site. As you'll see from the report, the officers have assessed the proposal in terms of impact on the wider area, the immediate area, including residential amenity and compliance with policy, as well as in respect of biodiversity, and conclude on balance that the proposal is acceptable and accordingly recommending approval, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one speaker on that. Mr. Walker, I'd like to come and join us. Thank you for waiting.
No problem at all.
That's been a long meeting.
Okay, you have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at committee this evening in support of our planning application for an additional train care building at our Heath Depot. My name is Craig Walker. I'm the Fleet Delivery Manager for Northampton, where I've worked for 15 years. We've worked proactively with officers since March this year. The report before you is comprehensive. I don't intend to repeat it. Instead, I'd like to focus on a few points. Firstly, what goes on at Heath. Secondly, why we are looking for your approval for this building. And finally, what are the key issues that we've addressed. Heath is a 24/7 operation, specifically for stabling and maintaining the Class 350 electric fleet of trains for West Midlands trains, serving routes between London Euston and Liverpool Lime Street. We opened the train maintenance facility in 2006. It now employs over 200 staff. It's also the home of the National Training Academy for Rail, which was a collaboration between National Skills Academy for Rail, the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, the Department for Transport and indeed Siemens, which is dedicated to training railway workforce for the future. The National Training Academy for Rail opened its doors in 2015. Since then, more than 21,000 delegates have attended to learn and retrain. The planned application before you is for the new multifunction building to be built over part of the existing external stabling area, which will be used for maintenance and upgrades of trains. This will allow us to upgrade existing Class 360 fleet initially, which serves the London St Pancras to Corby Connect service within a building rather than non-external sidings. 1 or 2 trains will be worked on each week. Works on those trains will be entirely internal. It will include a refresh of seating and carpets, installation of CCTV and passenger information systems. Whilst the depot operates 24/7, the works undertaken in the proposed building is expected to be carried out mainly on weekdays between 7 AM and 6 PM. The proposal necessitates the realignment of an internal depot road, which includes the loss of some landscaping delivered as part of the original development. We'll be replanting the bund between the new retaining wall and the back of the residential properties on Gladstone Road with native trees to increase the screening between the depot and our residential neighbours. This planting will help us achieve a biodiversity net gain of 10.38%. In summary, the proposal will attract multi-million-pound investment in rail vehicle modifications upgrades to Northampton, starting with a £27 million investment in the Class 360 trains that we discussed earlier. It will rationalise and extend the train upgrade and refurbishment works that Siemens carry out at the site, and it will retain existing and attract new skilled jobs to the Northampton area. We're confident that we can deliver on all of this with no discernible impacts on our residential neighbours. We commend your officer's recommendation and respectfully request that you approve our application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Frost.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. With regards to your last point about no objections from neighbours, page 127 of the report, it says that that you've had 2 letters of objection and that the objections were ignored, and that surveys regarding wildlife were falsified. Can we get some clarification on have there been objections or not? Because either this report is wrong or what you said is wrong. Thank you.
Eamon might want to come in here as well.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
Again, I think the report is referring to earlier applications, not the applications before you tonight.
Yes.
The representations that are reported in the report, they're referring to something that happened in the past.
Okay.
So we can't comment on that. We are judging this application on its merits, and to that end, we're satisfied that the officer has assessed the proposal in terms of the impact of the current proposal before you on residential amenity, and judges that to be acceptable.
Thank you. So this is not relevant to this application. This is the previous one.
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
So I'm going to be a little bit cheeky here. I've got a question. You mentioned about trains coming up from, was it St Pancras to the Corby ones? How on earth do they get across to Northampton?
So they're local hauled. So there's obviously that are, well, you know, their own network, but I live in Corby. The Corby to St Pancras route is electrified. London Euston up to Northampton is electrified. In between it isn't. So they have to be local hauled across. They come across, they'll be here with us for 2 weeks. We'll do the fleet modification upgrades, and then they're local hauled back.
Right. So whereabouts on the line do they actually cross over then to Northampton? The West Coast Main Line and the East Coast. Well, not the East Coast. The other line goes up to Wellingborough in that way.
Yeah, correct. So they actually go down to London. They cross over at London and then come back up that way, just somewhere slightly north of London. There is a crossover route earlier, but it's a single line. It's a risk, and Network Rail won't allow us to cross over at that point because of the impact it would have if it were to fail in that area.
Okay. Any comments? Yes. Councillors?
Just pleased really about the amount of people you're training and coming to you for training, because we do need better skills in the area, and I do welcome that.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Hill?
No, just delighted to see this application. I think we can all agree that we need skilled jobs in the area, and I would be very happy to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation.
I'm happy to accept it. All those in favour?
Thank you for bringing it to our area.
And once again. Brilliant. So that's leaves us item 5G, which is Oliver, I believe. So the train goes up officers. And we're looking at green. We could do 15. Okay. Oliver, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. This presentation will largely summarise the contents of the officer's report with regard to the application at 1 The Green in Everton. The application site comprises a 2-storey mid-terrace dwelling with stone elevations under a dual-pitch slate roof. The property fronts directly onto the green to the south, with rear access via an entrance between number 2 The Green and the field centre to the east. To the north is a public footpath and agricultural fields, and to the east and west are residential properties and their associated gardens. The application seeks retrospective planning permission for the construction of a single-storey rear extension to replace a previous rear extension. And then this slide shows the ground floor plan and the rear elevation prior to the construction of the extension. This slide shows the ground floor plan and the rear elevation with the new extension, which has reclaimed brick elevations under a flat felt roof with a raised glazed roof lantern and black fascias. White painted timber windows and a hardwood timber door have also been used. The key issues arising from the application include the principle of development, the design and impact on the character and appearance of the area, and the impact on the character and setting of the conservation area. The property is considered to be within the village confines with an established residential setting. It is also of a small scale for domestic use. Therefore, the principle of development is considered acceptable. The overall design and appearance of the extension is considered acceptable and remains subservient to the host dwelling. It represents a modest increase to the footprint of the property, whilst maintaining the same ridge height as the previous extension, with a small increase to the eaves height. The brick elevations and timber windows and doors are appropriate for the setting and the materials used in the host dwelling. It is also not considered that the extension will harm neighbouring residential amenity. The Conservation Officer has identified that the extension would result in minor, less than substantial harm to the character and appearance of the conservation area. Taking into account that the size and scale of the extension is minor, the appearance and design have been assessed to be acceptable, and it is located to the rear of the property, away from being visible from the public realm, officers consider that any harm to the conservation area would be at the lowest end of less than substantial harm. Any impact on the character and setting of the conservation area would therefore be very limited and, on balance, does not warrant sufficient grounds for refusal. And this slide shows further images of the rear elevation of the property and the neighbour to the west. And this slide shows images of the extension from along the rear access. The rear extension is not visible from the front of the property or the highway. The footpath to the rear of the property is well screened by a mature hedgerow and trees. There is a small hole in the rear hedgerow which provides only glimpsed views of the rear of number 1 and Barley Mow. Given the size of the hole and distance from the footpath to the rear of the properties along the green, the extension does not have a visual impact on this public right-of-way. The rest of the footpath behind these properties is well screened and does not offer any views of the extension, and this slide shows a further view of the rear of the property from the footpath and the footpath itself. And then the next slide also shows the rear footpath. On balance, it is considered that the rear extension is of an acceptable design, scale, form, massing and appearance that is subservient to the host dwelling. The rear of the property is not readily visible from the public realm and is considered not to have a visual impact on the surrounding area and the character and appearance of the street scene. Less than substantial harm to the conservation area has been identified. However, this has been considered to be minor and is at the lowest end of this scale of harm and therefore will not warrant sufficient grounds for refusal, and the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you, Oliver. Any questions for Oliver? We haven't. Councillor Frost.
Thank you. Just some clarification here. As I understand it, and this is alluded to in the report, I just want to check if I'm correct on this. That the neighbours went about their permission in what might be deemed as a more conventional way. That is to say that they asked permission first and then they built second. And in the process of that, the conservation area imposed or made it clear that they'd need to build it in a certain way. Otherwise, she would object. In other words, what I'm checking is that in order for I think it was Rachel, wasn't it, that was involved. She thought there were sufficient planning grounds to support her case. That if they went ahead and built it, ignoring her advice, that like I just said, there's enough planning grounds to warrant refusal, and if they appealed, the council would be on solid territory. My question is I'm very confused because that being the case, in other words, if those were valid requirements, because of the Everton, I'm sure everyone's aware, Everton is another village, and therefore, we're obliged to protect the form, character, and setting of the village. Blah blah blah. Either something's not right because either the neighbours were told something that wasn't true, or tonight we're being told something's not true. Something's not right. Do you see?
Again, as I alluded to previously, the fact that something is retrospective is not not a matter for members to punish or sort of, want a better word, have a go at the applicant. Ultimately, you got to judge the application on its merits. We don't have, and members don't have before them, what happened on another application. You've got to judge this application as it stands, and that's what we as officers have done. Ultimately, your choice again. The officers have looked at the proposal, assessed it, and also complied with the statutory duty in terms of impact in the conservation area, and we judge on balance the proposal to be acceptable. Like I say, we don't condone people going ahead and doing stuff. without the benefit of planning permission. That's a risk that they run. But ultimately, the system allows for retrospective applications to be submitted, and local authorities are required to assess that application on its planning merits, as opposed to the fact that it's retrospective. So, again, through you, Chairman, we don't know what was said between the Conservation Officer previously. You have the Conservation Officer's advice in respect of this particular application. We have put that into the balance, and we've come up with a recommendation. Entirely up to you, members, whether or not you consider that, what weight you wish to give to that advice, but that's our view as officers. Thank you.
Okay.
So you got a question?
Yes, because it's a conservation area, and when you look at the back, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, and it's not, the front seems quite pretty, the back, it's another matter. It's maybe me that have a view of what is beauty, that is, but the backs are not. So could we put in, because I cannot open my computer and I don't know, do we have, when we grant that planning application, that no further extension could be, because it's look really quite imposing at the back, and I don't see if I have it.
Public can't see that unless you look at the hedge.
Again, through you, Chairman, I mean, any further extensions more than likely would require planning permission in any case. Ultimately, you're here to judge this application.
Yeah, but if we can we withdraw planning, what is called now? Right.
Well, I would hasten to add that they have exceeded the permanent development rights. That's why we're here, looking at the application.
Yes.
So, I mean, without wishing to predict what's going to happen in the future, we can't predict that. All we can do is respond. Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's not what we would require. And like Councillor Frost, I don't condone people doing stuff, but ultimately we have to deal with the application as it is, assess it against the policies, and put out of our mind the fact that somebody's done something without planning permission. Different matter if it was a listed building, etc.
Councillor Frost, and then Sally.
Thank you, Chair. If we're being advised tonight that that this building is not against the rules, then it's a question. I have a question for the legal officer, if I may. If it's not against the rules, then nor was what the neighbour planning either. But if we go ahead and approve this application tonight, the neighbour has incurred considerable expense, jumping through hoops, frankly, trying to meet within the requirements that were advised as per evident, being a conservation area of the village and all the rest of it. If we go ahead and approve this application tonight, the neighbour may have a strong legal case against the council for advising her things that we now know to be untrue. If this development's okay, do you have any comment on the merits of that sort of case? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The alternative applicant, a neighbouring property where they've taken the preemptive route of planning application process and have taken on board comments that have been received through the council officers, is the route that is encouraged through the planning process. As we've said, it doesn't stop a retrospective application to regularise a matter where the council considers that might be an appropriate option other than enforcement. So there's no right or wrong route per se, and there isn't a case for one applicant to say, well, that's how we did it, why weren't they asked to do it the same way? That is a matter for applicants individually to deal with, how to approach their applications and their development proposals as they feel is appropriate for them. The council will then need to deal with each application on a case-by-case basis. On this occasion, the applicants have submitted a retrospective application, and that is what's before the council tonight for consideration.
Thank you. My point being the advice is very different. Thank you.
There, thank you. I noticed that it's been called in by Councillor Guildford. Is she not here too? I thought people had to...
It changed back to how it was before. She has the option to come along, she has the option to submit a written
Okay, so I didn't know she was waiting in the wings, you know. Okay, can I then just say that although these people have done it retrospectively and probably need a slap on the wrist by people, I don't think we can actually, because it's detrimentally made much difference to the back of their property in line with next doors and various other places. I think it would be churlish, really, to ask them to take it all down.
Are you proposing to accept this recommendation?
Yes.
James, have to say that. All those in favour? So that's... Against? Two against. Okay, any like to come back? So that's approved. Colette, thank you for waiting. And we move on to our last item. Which was previously approved in 2020, so it's just a renewal of it, really.
Yeah.
And this has come to us because it's a member of staff. Oh, just a member of staff.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
It says here that the applicant is a WNC staff member.
That's right.
Does that have to be declared, does it?
Yeah. That's what's come to us.
That's right.
Oh, okay. I just...
Yeah. Like
It's the only reason it's in front
The only
of
reason
us.
is
No, that's what I was thinking. I didn't
Yeah. It's only a renewal of what's been approved in 2020.
Okay.
Colette, over to you. I don't want to assume your presentation.
Good evening. This presentation will summarise the matters dealt with in the officer's report for 14 Lawson Crescent, Northampton. The site comprises a two-storey brick-built dwelling located within an existing established residential area to the east of Northampton town. The proposal is for demolition of an existing single detached garage and replacement with a two-storey side extension and a single-storey rear extension. The ground floor will comprise a garage which meets local highway standards and also living accommodation, and the first floor will provide an additional bedroom, as demonstrated on the plans before us. Design has been assessed and it's been considered the proposal is in keeping with the character of the area and the size is proportionate to the dwelling and the plot with a subservient roof ridge. Amenity has been assessed and it is considered that no unacceptable harm will be imposed to neighbouring dwellings. The proposal would also provide a total of 3 off-road parking spaces for a 4-bedroom dwelling, which also meets local highway standards. Some standard conditions are proposed, including materials to match and also removing permitted development for additional windows on elevations facing the neighbouring dwelling to protect amenity. It is therefore concluded that the proposed development is in accordance with the development plan and is recommended for approval. And lastly, for clarity, no objections have been received and this application is presented before committee as the applicant is a member of staff. And finally, the application was previously approved, as mentioned, in 2020, and this is for the exact same proposal.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I would like to propose that we go with the
Thank you. Proposed by okay, so proposed by Cecile, seconded by Sally. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time tonight. It's a very long meeting, but thank you for...
It's not open, so...
It's 2 hours and 45 minutes earlier than I thought. I lost that bit.
Right, here we go then. New officers.
Yes, thank you.
And then they just ignore it. Because the guy was following the rules as a publisher at that time. He wasn't given a fair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The car park under this building, I've never parked in it before, but I have this time.
You go down the lift.
Yeah.
Or you go to the ground floor and then walk down outside and down round.
Right, yeah, I'll do
Good
that.
at getting out. Don't go too fast, otherwise you'll get crash into the that was discussed. You can go down.
And now, too far. Yes, because that is very, I mean, now, I smell all the noise and because they don't nowhere. And because that is a problem.
I don't disagree, but I mean, if we can look at sort of drainage condition if there is, certainly.
Additional documents not being presented by committee without first sitting by the AD.
Raised in the debate.
So it mentions that, yeah, but it mentions that on the website as well, it's been brought up a few times by Councillor Foss. Do we need to have a conversation about getting that? Yeah.
Are they not keeping the horses in the existing state?
Twice in 2 meetings. But Councillor Foss keeps mentioning to how every time I see him, there's been resolved.
So they got rid of those steps.
That was allowed, but
The planning as you said,
Yeah,
which stages, which was different stages. Use of the land for grazing horses.
I think maybe just flag it with mentioned Paul actually.
I mean, the point is, it's fine. But clearly, and then if you stay within the area, that means it's using this building.
Oh, because if you did, if you did like, if every member had a tablet, it's all paid.
Well, the thing is, the council's email addresses are all on the website. If somebody was that interested in getting this stuff out, they can just find it themselves. But that's it. As soon as
While I'm
you
not doing the document, just say, here's the members of the planning committee, email that to us today. Yeah. Thank you so much. Here we are. I hope you were happy of the length.
Oh yeah.
It was a bit rowdy,
Oh, this I'll go back through. Oh, no, there he is.
Do you know what I'm confused about how to get to the 11 o'clock and then walk the road? Yes,
safe.
Enjoy what's left of your evening.
Take care.
Phew. Ed, my car's in 100 Square. No one said.
It's closed now, I think, isn't it, Angel Square?
Yeah, but how do I get it? How do I get open? I've got all my passes. Who's got the?
Is nobody in the security office downstairs?
Downstairs. Yeah, they said something to do with that.
Oh, crumbs, I've no idea. I don't have anything to do with that building yet. We're moving down soon, but
Can I get in? If I go through the main entrance, is there anyone in the main entrance? Can I slither in down and then it will let me out go in that way?
What, down here? Oh, what, you need to get out of this building?
Well, my car's locked, I've got nowhere getting home.
No.
Can I get into the reception at 100 Square and can I get through to the car park using my pass?
You won't be able to get into the reception. No, there's no one there. It's everyone's gone home. I don't even think if they haven't got any meetings, they won't even have security on the door this time of night.
No one said you can't park. I mean, the meeting only just finished.
Yeah.
Someone's got a key to that thing.
Hi, really sorry to be calling you so late. Councillor Frost Park's down at Angel Square. It's obviously closed now. We don't know who to get in contact with us so we can get his car out of the car park. Guildhall office, or the security office rather, they're saying it's nothing to do with us. So, I haven't got a number for him. Oh yes, of course it does. Okay. Okay, brilliant, thank you. No, well, lesson learned. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll see if I can find a number for Simon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can find a number for him. Yeah, that's fine. No. Yeah, well, we'll just see what we can do. I hope there's a phone number on the bottom of this chap's. Okay, I've got a feeling. Oh no, that's perfect. There's a number here. Yeah, I'll give him a call now. Thanks, Tracy. Yes, it is, yeah. No. Yes, yeah, okay. Alright, thank you very much. No, that's better than I was able to do. Cheers. Alright, I'll give him a call now, thank you. Bye-bye. Simon Bowers, well, she said, well, you could Teams him, which I can't do that, he's not online on Teams. But I'll try and give him a call. It's a work mobile though, so... I'm not sure if he won't be the person who knows, but Tracy said that this has happened before, and Paul got in touch with Simon, who then got in touch with somebody who was able to come and open the car park. 286382. That's just gone to voicemail.
Perhaps we can send him a message. So he knows somebody with the number who can get me out?
That's what I've been told by Tracy. I will send him a message.
So Cyril suggested me messaging Adam Brown, so I'll do that as well.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea at all.
Hello? else can help me? I can't. I'm desperate to get out, but dogs that need to be let out. And it's a council car park, and the meeting's only just finished. Why would I be banned from using it?
Well, you wouldn't. Tracy did mention that it's, I mean, obviously for this reason, she said it's normally not a good idea for people to park on Angels.
But we haven't had any notices to tell us not to.
No.
It's completely unfair. I mean, how else can we get it out?
I'm not a driver. I don't know anything about the car parks. But I think if Councillor Brown doesn't know anyone who's able to assist in this, then I don't know.
Do your passes? Do you have an advance? There's scans on your side.
I mean, I've got a pass for 1 Angel Square, but that'll only open the...
Perhaps we can try and get it together, see if all our various passes will open up the gate, yeah?
I mean, we could give it, I don't think it will. I mean, I've got to put this away.
Sure, well, this is fine. Simon might respond to his message, mightn't he? Have you texted him?
I've texted him, yeah. I've called him. But it's a work phone. I mean, people keep their personal mobiles on them, don't they? But work phones, I think once you've done with work, you tend to abandon it for the night, don't you? But we'll keep on with it just in case he calls me.
Have I got his number on my computer? I can call him as well.
Who? Adam Brown or Simon?
Well, Simon. And why is he the only person? Why Simon and no one else?
He's the the head of assets, I think it is.
Doesn't he have a subordinate who could help him?
Possibly, but Simon was the name that I was given by Tracy. I think the last time this happened, Paul got in touch with Simon, who then got in touch with somebody who was able to come and open the gates. Who these somebodies are, though, I've no idea.
The fact that it's not switched off makes me think that it's obviously on, otherwise it would just go straight to the voicemail, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've got his mobile here. Are you calling it now? Simon?
Yeah.